Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of the one and only Premier Touring Car Racing Class Championship on iRacing. That is the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 8 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available on a PC known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. That's right ladies and gentlemen, the story of the season continues once again today with another week of rapid fire racing action, and it is time for round 3 of the championship. But where are we today? We've made our way to Portugal for the first time in the series history for the one and only Autódromo Internacional do Algarve, known more commonly as the Portimão Circuit in relation to the city in which the circuit sits. A circuit that is much loved for its ability to blend an absolute plethora of elevation changes and a wide open road racing surface. It is a corner over the course of what is its 2.91 mile distance, which will see drivers have to contend with off-sighted apexes, plenty of heavy braking zones, and also some major sweeping corners and an absolutely tremendously long start-finish straight, and through it all there could be the opportunity to do battle at each and every corner. To go away with victory here at the Algarve circuit, you've got to have your wits about, you've also got to be consistent, and you've also got to be ready to defend into each and every corner, or be ready to go brave and bold on the brakes in order to make that race-winning move. Well, for all that and everything in between, I'm sure we're going to see plenty of racing action today here, given the fact it's a new season of racing iRacing. We've had an update drop earlier today, and we've got some major change in store as well, as we'll talk about a little bit later on. But where are my manners? Let's introduce this broadcast and welcome to you all tuning in live from circuit side, and we could be tuning in via 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure right now. Of course, you could be tuning in via one of the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media platforms, one of those being on YouTube at youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, including SB Racing. Good evening to you, SB Racing. And alternatively, you could be tuning in via the NXTGEN Racing Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls that tune in via Facebook, including Sam Bradley and also Verano Esports. Also, lastly, we have the unofficial broadcast available on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX11. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. And who is TX11, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator for this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all of your racing action as it unfolds over the course of this season. But our schedule for tonight, timed in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, as we can see, is in just under 18 minutes time. We'll have our qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, after which we'll kick off our 3 races back-to-back, 11 laps in duration each, starting race number 1 at 8:15, after which we'll be taking a brief breather before returning for the racing action just before 9 o'clock, at which point it's scheduled to get underway at 9 o'clock approximately. Now, after race number 2, we'll be doing the same, but not without that all-important reverse grid draw before returning for the racing action at approximately what will be a 9:45 this evening for our final of our 3 races here today. It's a sunny day in Portugal with an ambient temperature currently of 20 degrees centigrade and a track temperature that's rising from 27 degrees centigrade, and it's likely going to be a significant change from the weather we've seen in our opening 2 rounds, where it's been a mixture of rather heavy rain and also some rather changeable conditions throughout, but hopefully conditions will be stable today, and that could lead to some much more natural racing, but a different type of pace, we should say, or at least a different tempo compared to what we've seen previously at Motorsport and also in our season opening round number 1. But ladies and gentlemen, talking about our season opener and also round 1, and also talking about what is our run into the latter half of the championship, well, let's walk you through the calendar so far and what we've still got lying in wait. And as we can see, we opened up at the Marco Simoncelli circuit at Misano on the 26th of November. That was our first round and our first ever visit to the Italian circuit. And then we went to, on the 3rd of December, the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and well, the legendary Canadian circuit, the home of Canadian Motorsport, really bringing home the ultimate racing that comes in the NXTCC for round number 2. And well, we walked away there absolutely speechless with a brilliant calibre of racing, and particularly Lee Horn pulling off another absolute blinder when it came to wet weather racing, albeit not quite able to make the magic happen in some of the other races, but definitely in one of them. And we also saw some brilliant driving from the likes of Andy Fox and also what was none other than Andrew Pike, to name a few stars. But now it's the 10th of December, and it's time for the Autodromo International do Algarve. And after today, we'll have one more round to wrap up the first half of the season. Round number 4 will be in a week's time on the 17th of December at the Autodromo National Monza. We wrap up our trip to Italy, our 2 trips over the course of the season, and we pause things for our mid-season break. A 2-week break to usher in Christmas and the New Year, and when we come back with a bang in 2025. On the 7th of January, we open up with our 5th round of the season. And it will be at the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke, or the Nürburgring combined. We'll see our drivers take on the Goliath of motorsport in terms of road racing, and who will come away victorious there in what will be the first of our 2 feature race special rounds. We'll then make our way into what will be the mathematical second half of the season, with round number 6 on the 14th of January at the Knockhill Racing Circuit. Will be a question of Scotland the Brave for many. And then on the 21st of January, we'll make our way back to Canada for the second and final time this season for the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve at the Hybrid Street Circuit. And then on the 28th of January, our drivers will be making their way around the fastest road racing circuit in the United Kingdom. It's arrived on the iRacing simulation platform. It will be the one and only Thruxton Circuit that will be playing host for the first time in the series history. Goodness me, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot wait to head to Thruxton, albeit we're going to have to, given the fact we've got so many brilliant circuits on the way to Thruxton. And then, after we've made our way to Thruxton, we'll be wrapping up the season down under in Australia with a double header. On the 4th of February, with round number 9, it'll be the Sandown International Motor Raceway, and we couldn't have a season without going to Sandown, no doubt about it. And then in our season finale on the 11th of February, we'll have our second feature race round special, and that will be at the Bathurst Circuit. 9 and 4 as Mount Panorama, and well, we look forward to seeing how our drivers get on there as they look to become king of the hill and also take the crown in their respective championship classes. But speaking of our championship classes, let's give you an update on the championship stands after 2 rounds of racing. We begin with the overall drivers' championship, and as we can see, Jaroslaw Cebula continues to lead by 26 points over the ascending charge of Mikey Doble, who has moved into P2. Benji McCluskey has dropped to P3, only 4 points behind, with the 2 exchanging results, and McCluskey come off the worst of the 2, and Mikey Doble starting to build some momentum in the championship, but Cebula is looking rather rigid at the top and is looking to try and maintain that lead. Outside the top 3, it's a further 8 points to Andrew Pike, whose consistency in the wet at motorsport has netted him very well and graciously enabled him to move up into the top 5, and Adam Delmont sits on his heels a further 14 points behind. Outside the top 5 is your leading prime driver, Nick Clibbins, on 179 points, 2 ahead of Lee Horn, with Jamie Dory, Toby Prosser and Daniel Downing completing a top 10. From the 146 points of Daniel Downing, it's only a further 5 to Kieran Smart, the Track Scotland driver. Both him and also his teammate, both of them absolutely delivering at motorsport last time out and really showing an incredible pace, as we'll go on to see in the Prime Championship standings and how that's affected their standing. But after Smart, it's Ben Gregory in P12 ahead of Sam Van Olst, with Isaac Doe and Ben Ultrier completing a top 15. From the 107 points for Ultrier, it's then 105 to Alex Meredith, who's still trying to get his championship campaign out of first gear, as he was telling me in the build-up to today. And unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing it on the grid due to personal circumstances, but always well with Alex Meredith, I can tell you that. He's just not able to make it due to work, and therefore we'll see him in round number 4 in a week's time, but really keen to try and put away some of the bad luck that he's seen in the first 2 rounds of the season. But we'll have to wait till round number 4 at Monza to see whether he can set things right. Reece Watts sits P17 ahead of Stuart Winus, the other member of Track Scotland, who absolutely delivered in the wet at motorsport, and then Joe Doble and Andy Fox complete your top 20. From the 90 points of Andy Fox, we then do have the 87 points of Sam Bradley, and then it is none other than Jack Osborne in P22 for Atomic Esports, 3 points ahead of Sam Smith, with Matthew Sheraton and Alan McCain completing the top 25. Dan Mould sits P26 for that heartbreak result in race number 1 of the day at the Motorsport Circuit, which saw him come into the pits with only 2 laps remaining when he didn't need to go into the pits. A strategic miscall from the team at SRL and NXTGEN Gold, and that's what enabled Lee Horn to run away rampant to victory in race 1 at Motorsport. But Mould won't be looking to make the same mistake twice today, as he's ahead of Matt Emmons by only a single point, with Russell Fowler for the Rhino Esports team behind his teammate there a further 7 points, and it's Gavin Garner and Duncan Rice who complete your top 30. Outside the top 30, it's in P31 Eduardo Gonzaga ahead of Anthony Hilton, and then we do have none other than Josh Brown ahead of Michael Lees and Lewis Delmont, and we can see Brown there the leading AM driver in P33, and it takes some time to get to the next AM driver, and along the way as well P36 is Jake Pitt before you come to your second place AM driver overall Jonathan Collins, and it's Marcel Fritsch, James Scout and Lewis Mason to complete your top 40. And outside the top 40, let's not forget about them, we've got Sammy Ariba, Jonathan Berry, Andy Chell, Gabriel Papaconstantinou, Gabriel Yilmaz, Mark Sykes, Joshua Boot, Kevin Smith, Gilberto Struck, Shane Abbott, Mark Kent, Sean Dowie, who's the last of our drivers with overall points to their name, and on 0 points, Costa Chatscontinental, Craig Tillerson, Harley Bicknell, Joe Newman, and John Higgins Jr. But the complexion changes when you come to the Prime standings, and once the points are adjusted specifically to the Prime drivers, we see that Daniel Downing continues to lead, but his advantage has been slashed to a single point. Nick Clibbins is right there with him, only a point behind. And then we have Ben Gregory in P3 on 238 points, a further 30 behind. Gregory will be looking to try and take the charge to the top two, but Toby Prosser, meanwhile, is only 9 points behind and is rising up through the ranks, albeit not quite able to work perhaps the wet weather magic we've seen from Prosser in the past. But then again, today could be a very different day, and perhaps he'll be a dry weather specialist as of this season. And then Kieran Smart, one of the two Track Scotland drivers, moving his way up into P5 there on 219 points, and those results seeing him leap his way into the top 10 and into the top 5, given the brilliant form of Track Scotland at Mosport. Sam Van Olst is just ahead of Sam Bradley there by 18 points between the two of them. Sam Bradley not able to make the racing today due to personal circumstances, but you can find him in the Facebook chat tuning in as he's stuck in London, unfortunately. But Sam, don't worry, we're very happy to have you tuning in all the same, although we do miss seeing you on circuit, and we'll hope to see you in round number 4 in a week's time, because it's not quite the same in the Prime class without you, I can tell you that. And he's just ahead of Stuart Winus by 4 points there. Matthew Sheraton sits P9, 172, and yet to find his true form, Sheraton, albeit he's got his elbows out many a time so far this season. We'd love to see it, with Alan McCain a further, what is 13 points behind there to complete your top 10, 159. Reece Watt is 1 point off of the top 10, but ahead of Sam Smith by 15, and Russell Fowler just behind Smith based on result count bag, and Duncan Rise and Matt Evans complete the top 15 of the primes, with Lewis Delmon, Anthony Hilton, Eduardo Gonzaga, Jake Pitt, and Gilberto Struck completing the top 20. Outside the top 20, we see Michael Lees P21 ahead of Mark Sykes, with James Sposer Scout, Sammy Ariba, and Shane Abbott completing the top 25. And it's Harley Bicknell, Joe Newman, and John Higgins Jr. who've yet to score any points in the Prime standings. Coming on to the AM class, last but by no means least, when it does come to our Drivers' Championship stands, it's Josh Brown who has started to tear away at the front of the field. He's become one of the class's first repeat winners as of around Canada last time out. However, can he start to break away today? That will be the challenge that confronts him. Jonathan Collins would like to say Brown is not going to break away, but that gap of what is the best part there, 43 points, could say something very different by the end of today should momentum not come his way. Marcel Fritsch, meanwhile, has fallen to P3, but he'll be looking to come back today after what was a challenging round number 1, a better round number 2. But I think he feels though there's still points on the table and he wants to grab them up. Jonathan Berry as well has started to rise up through the ranks, up into P4 on 221 points, 4 ahead of Lewis Mason, and it's Kevin Smith just outside of the top 5 there. He's a further, what is 21 points behind, but then again, the Verano Academy driver will know that it's only an early portion of the season that's been covered so far, and he'll be looking to hit his stride soon, given the fact he fancied himself at the start of the season as well as prime title contenders. Mark Kent in P7. Unfortunately, we do have to announce, ladies and gentlemen, we won't be seeing Mark Kent on the grid for the rest of this season due to personal circumstances. Unfortunately, his health is battling against his sim racing capacity right now, and he's decided to prioritise his health, and good on Mark Kent for doing so, and he shouldn't be ashamed about it. But I do believe Mark is going to be tuning in today on the YouTube channel, and if you do see Mark, do say hello to him and do send him a lot of love his way, in the fact he's absolutely sad to be missing this season of the AM Championship after the heartbreaking season 7, and this time he's had to retire prematurely due to his health, but he'll hope to be back in season 9, and we'll give you the inside scoop on what's happening at Full Tilt B Motorsport in due course. Gabriel Yilmaz, meanwhile, sits in P8 ahead of fellow Gabriel for Aztec Racing. That's Papa Constantino in P9, and then we have Andy Chell at a third point behind to complete the top 10. Sean Doby sits in P11 on 91 points after a brilliant debut at last time out at Mosport, indeed picking up some major points, and he'll be hoping for more today, with Costa Constantino and Craig Tidderson yet to score. We'll then come on to the Teams Championship, last but by no means least when it comes to all of our standings. I say that often, and we see NXTGEN Ping on 491 points, where they're starting to break away and defending that team's title crown ahead of Doble Sim Racing. However, Doble Sim Racing have also put some mileage between themselves and Goldwing Motorsport, and if anything, the battle now seems to be stemming around P3 at this time, with SRO and NXTGEN Gold only what is a further 18 points behind, and the NXTGEN Orange Whiskey runners under major pressure to stay in P5, with only a 13-point advantage over iRacing Esports. Track Scotland have moved away from outside the top 10 into the top 10 into P7 on 227 points, head of Full Tilt B Motorsport by 11, and there's Aztec Racing and the Sim Racing Collective who round out the top 10. From 196 points of the Sim Racing Collective, you see it's 124 to JWM Motorsports, I should say, spelling error there, and well, they right now trying to hold on to that best of the rest position ahead of Verano Esports, with Atomic Esport not too far behind. And a sizable 29-point gap to National Racing Team, one of our newest teams on the grid, as they fend off Mellow Motorsports in P15, and Verano Academy, Quartermass Motorsport, and SJC Racing with 991 Racing complete the team standings, whereas points have been assigned with yet to score points 287 Motorsport with Autofocus Motorsport Media and Atomic Esports. Well, in fact, that's just Atomic there. My apologies. I think that's a slight mistype there, but we do have all our teams listed, and well, without further ado, let's quickly give you a reminder of the rules before we do go racing. And as we can see, this is a fixed setup series with with our drivers being provided with setups ahead of each and every round of racing. Driver classes shall be finalised as the conclusion of round number 3, so after today we may see some drivers be shifted through their classes, and therefore it does mean that not all of the classes are final as of this round, but they will be after today, and we'll give you the update on how the class assignments have been shifted around when we head to Monza in a week's time in the early stage of that broadcast. As for our races, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race 1, so whoever wins race 1 starts at pole for race 2, and we set the grid accordingly. And the race 3 grid, meanwhile, shall be the partial reverse grid, based on results of race 2, with the reversal position being between P13 and P23, as drawn live from the commentary booth. Each driver has one fast repair available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 11 laps or 30 minutes, whichever expires first, but we're expecting those laps to trickle down before the timer. Where to this, race stewarding is in effect, and an independent race director is stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of the safety car, and we can see the penalties there for track limit infringements, which go from no penalty all the way through to a drive-through penalty on the 5th misdemeanor, and those drive-through penalties must be served when 3 laps are being assigned. Meanwhile, all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. Success ballast continues to be applied, and it's applied on a race-by-race basis overall and in the Prime and Am classes, and we'll see for qualifying in race 1, it will be the championship stands, which we showed you early on, which will influence the success ballast assignments there, and we'll update them iteratively for race 2 based on results of race 1, and for race 3 based on results of race 2. And we do have some drivers who are new on the grid today, and they will take the newcomer success ballast of 16.6 kilograms into their cars, and we'll introduce those drivers very shortly. And well, there's the success ballast values. You can see them all on screen, and we'll do pause the broadcast right now if you do want to go through them and understand who's taking what success ballast. But otherwise, we're going to come to our circuit for today, and it's the Autodromo International do Algarve's Grand Prix Loud, albeit with the additional chicanes. And this circuit, located in the city limits of Portimão in what is the Faro region of the Algarve state of Portugal, is a circuit not to be missed. And the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, and thank you to iRacing for the brilliant simulator, and the track maps that come with it doesn't quite do the circuit justice, in my personal opinion, in the fact that whilst it is a 2-dimensional image that shows you all 16 corners, and the fact that this circuit has a wide array of challenges, it doesn't show you the absolutely tremendous set of elevation changes that arise through each and every corner sequence. And from sector to sector, you could be going uphill, downhill, and a combination of the two. And well, we will very shortly be jumping on board with our drivers in qualifying to give you a demonstration of just how impressive this circuit is. But in terms of the major crunch points in this circuit, keep your eyes out for heavy battling under braking into turn number 1, as our drivers will make the way into the tight chicane of turns 1, 2 and 3, and we'll also see plenty of battling downhill into turn 6 there, the second of the hairpins, before our drivers make the way out and uphill up towards Samson corner at turn number 9, and we're also expecting plenty of battling to occur through what is turns 13 through to 16, as our drivers roar their way for the low speed corner sequence of 13 through to 15, and it's the flat out run out to Galp corner at turn number 16 to complete lap and do it all over again. But without further ado, that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing, and so are we. And well, as our drivers do get set, we look to this man right now of Daniel Downey as he roars his way on around the circuit, and we're one of many out there getting in their final practice laps. And what's new for today, given the iRacing seasonal update that's arrived as of earlier today, is the fact we have seen an update to the way that iRacing treats the distribution of dirt, rubble and gravel as it is pushed across the circuit. When a driver drives off circuit, the debris factor has been intensified, and it means it's going to be even more realistic in terms of the racing you can expect to see here. And well, from what I've been hearing from some last minute or preparatory testing from what is some of our drivers out there, they're already noticing if a driver drives into a gravel trap and brings some gravel onto the road surface, the car will naturally start to understeer. If it does end up going over that gravel, it leads to dirty tyres, and dirty tyres can very heavily affect the capabilities of these front-engine, front-wheel drive touring car racing machines as they roar their way from corner to corner, and that could lead to some very sudden changes in driver performance as the racing goes on. And even in qualifying, a driver might be on a perfect lap only to end up driving through some gravel that's been pushed onto the circuit, and that could see them understeer into a braking zone and completely spoil what could be the ultimate lap and take them away from true perfection. As we look to Andy Fox making his way down here into the turn 6 hairpin, and as he does so, I did have the pleasure to catch up with Andy in the build-up to today, and I had the chance to ask him about his thoughts with regards to how he was feeling going racing here at Portimão, and he was saying to me and the fact that this is a completely new circuit to him, and he feels as though he's got decent pace for a mid-pack finish within the pro class and in general inside that top 15, but he has been struggling with the flow of the circuit compared to some of his roles and some of his Goldwyn Motorsport teammates. And it is a very unique circuit, this Algarve circuit, with regards to its flow, and the fact there are a lot of instances as you drive around here where you end up flying back on yourself, a lot of 180-degree reversals through the hairpins, and also those sweeping sections end up spitting you out after the left-right and right-left combinations. It really is a challenging circuit to get right, and Andy really encompassing that in his pre-race thoughts, and also saying about the fact that this is one of those circuits where he feels as though the key to success is not to overdrive it, and it's one of those ones whereby the slower you drive or the smoother you drive, it feels slow, but in actuality you end up going faster in terms of your natural lap times and your consistency that comes with it. So therefore he's going to be just getting his head down, taking it race by race, starting with qualifying and seeing where he ends up, and he's hoping that so long as he makes it through the first 2 races in one piece, he could be on for a major result, and he's done exactly that in the first 2 rounds of the season, and we look forward to seeing what Andy's going to be able to do in this round today. But he makes his way on around, and we do say hello to a few more of you there in the respective chats, including Katie Eames in the Facebook chat, who's cheering on the Verano Esports drivers tonight and saying, let's go smash it guys, and we look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do. And well, we haven't got too many of the Verano drivers out there at the moment. Well, there's Matt Emmons. I mean, we could not ever forget the #1 driver here, running the 0-1 on the car in commemoration of taking the AM crown for what was season 7, and as he makes his way down, has definitely found it challenging in the Prime class of this season so far, but it's early days yet, and I think he's yet to hit his true stride, and we look forward to the day when he does so, because I think he'll be taking the fight to those top 10s on a regular basis in the Prime class, but he makes his way on through. We also do say hello in the YouTube chat there, well, in fact in the Facebook chat we should say hello to Mike Barber, a member of the Verano outfit, and very happy to see you tuning in, Mike. And indeed absolutely lethal in a Ford Mustang GT3, I can tell you, for Verano Esports. And well, Mike, we'd love to see the TCRs at one point. I think many would love to see it out there in the TCR machines. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for qualifying. Who's going to be on pole over the course of the 15-minute duration? Well, let's find out. So as our drivers begin to make their way out of the pit lane, and very short as I look out my commentary booth window, everyone taking their time to inch their way out the pit lane at the moment. You can see everyone now starting to get into position there, and well, I think some drivers here perhaps being a little bit hesitant compared to others, but they all gradually begin to move their way out. Well, the first driver who leaves the pit lane and makes way onto the circuit is Lee Horn, and well, as he comes on down here and roars his way in towards what will be turn #1, it's a short run to be fair. Well, as he brings his way on through the corners, I think Horn will be feeling quite buoyant after what was a brilliant day, as we do have our overlay refresh there because our circuit map decided to hide itself, and we don't want our circuit map to hide itself, so we'd love to see what our drivers are. But as Horn makes way on through, he had a great day at Motorsport last time out, and I think he'll be hoping today it's going to be just as strong. Of course, the one downside that Horn does not have here today is we're not expecting any wet weather on the cars based on the forecast for all 3 races over the course of today. We're expecting it to be sunny with a little bit of cloud towards the end of the day, but what that does mean is that Horn will need to demonstrate that he's not only a changeable condition specialist, or wet weather specialist we could say, but also he's able to go quickly in the dry, and well, that's not to be diminutive to him because he has shown that multiple times in previous seasons when he's been running in the Prime class, and also after being in the Prime class and moved to the Pro class, that he can also be very quick in the dry, and that's why he brought home that stellar result in season 7, chasing after the top 5 in the overall championship and netting it right at the end of the season. When many drivers began to fall off, that's exactly when Lee started to pick up the pace. But he makes his way on around. We do also look to Gabriel Yilmaz, our AM driver for Aztec Racing here, heading on down into the braking zone here for turn #6 in the Audi RS3. And it gives us an opportunity to take a look in the YouTube chat and say hello to Adam Ezra there, who's cheering on. Well, not quite sure who Adam's cheering on, but he's saying, let's go, lads, unless he's rooting for everybody today, which is absolutely fair. You don't need to have favourites on this grid. We also say hello to the Verano Esports YouTube account there, who's cheering on the Verano drivers, and looking forward to seeing how many drivers end up throwing gravel on the track today. We also say hello to Mark Kent there, who's looking forward to seeing the full Tilby Motorsport drivers racing today. And well, speaking of full Tilby Motorsport, with Mark Kent having to withdraw, well, he does have the opportunity to hand over his spot on the grid, or his licence to be on the grid, to a fellow driver from full Tilby Motorsport, as they do have the racing licences to be on the NXTCC grid midway through the season. And well, who else would he hand over to than this man, William Guthrie. Now, if any of you have been tuning into the NXTCC since its early days, particularly looking back to the likes of what was Season 3, you will remember this man in the number 36, Hyundai Veloster, as he roars his way down towards turn #1. And I can tell you one thing about William Guthrie, an absolutely pleasant driver to talk to off the circuit. He's always got time for everyone, and on the circuit, he is the man who's looking to make sure he's one step ahead of everyone when it comes to lap time. A very fast touring car racing class driver, and definitely one of the major contenders in the early seasons of the NXTCC, having to step away from the series due to circumstances, albeit personal, not in animosity between us and William Guthrie, but in the fact that he did have broadcast there, ladies and gentlemen, give us a brief moment. And in fact, we do apologise if the broadcast briefly cut out there for a moment. Seems though we've had a slight technical hitch, albeit the broadcast has now brought itself back to life. So we do apologise for that as Guthrie makes his way on through. We do wish him the best luck today. And we're coming from William Guthrie. We also do have two other drivers who are new on the grid today, albeit one of them is another returning driver, albeit a more recent driver in the mines, and he's representing the Sim Racing Collective. And here he is, Tom Davidson, who's back, and we're very happy to see him back on the grid in the Honda Civic Type R, and he'll be joining the ranks of what is... he'll be joining the ranks of what will be none other than Andrew Pike as they look to go for glory. And as he makes his way on round down towards turn number 6, already looking relatively quick out there, albeit he's still got to get some lap time in there. And when we look forward to seeing where Davison can put himself on that grid, he'll be in the Prime class. And meanwhile, we've also got in the Prime class, new to the NXTCC, I do believe, from the United States of America, none other than Dylan Hunter. And well, we look forward to seeing how he gets on in the Hyundai Veloster, and he'll be representing none other than DH Racing, a privateer outfit, and the number 26 driver making his way on through the final corner here at Galp to come to the end of his first flying lap in his NXTCC history. And we look forward to seeing exactly where that's going to put him relative to all his rivals. But as the broadcast, I think, has now come back to life, and we do apologise if there have been some slight technical issues with the broadcast, but hopefully it will calm down. And we see a question there from Adam Ezra with regards to audio is cutting out, or is it just me? Well, if the broadcast has cut out, and it should now be back to normal. We did have a slight technical hitch. We're not quite sure what's happened there, but hopefully things are now back and stable once again. But as he heads on through and rolling on around, more of a drive heading on towards what will be the next few corners. And well, at this point it will be a Dylan Hunter who continues to try and push a little bit higher than P20 at this time. But as he heads on through, we also say hello to Andy Rooney in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on the Portimão Motorsport drivers and saying that the turn 1 chicane looks horrendous. Indeed, it is going to be very tight out there. But speaking of our Portimão drivers, here is one of them in the Prime class, and this is none other than Sammy Arriba as he heads in towards what will be turn number 5. Over the crest he goes, and then down towards turn number 6. He roars his way on through, and he's being chased quite closely there, I believe, by none other than what is his teammate. Well, but that's not Andy Chell behind him, that is Jonathan Berry, who's using Arriba as a little bit of a slipstream magnet at this point. And well, the AM driver tucking in behind his Brown teammate, and Andy Chell just in front. So they're all working together as a trio here, and all trying to follow the racing line of the other and pick up some tow as they do so. But coming in towards what will be now the second half of the lap. Well, we're very shortly going to be jumping on board while we drive for a flying lap here, and well, I believe we're going to get an onboard lap from none other than Duncan Rise as he heads across the timeline to go on to a flying lap. So as the Prime driver makes his way down towards turn number 1, all full speed here in top gear and 6th gear, and looking for his brake marker on the left hand side, and it will be there just before the 100 metre board in that downhill braking zone all the way down to 1st gear. Nice and tight on the apex from right into left as he manages to avoid hitting the sausage curbs too directly, and now coming through turn number 3. A bit of an early apex there, and that's cost him a little bit of time and unsettled the car, but onto the brakes now, 70 metres of corner apex into turn 4. Rolling his way through the right-hander and then into left of turn number 5. Here it's about flat-out commitment all over the way over the rise and making sure also not to have too much steering input as he comes through the left-hander. And now he'll be down into the dip here for turn number 6. And this is where the elevation changes start to increase in their magnitude. Hard on the brakes then, 120 metres of corner apex all the way down to 1st gear at the hairpin's apex. And as the car gets ejected out, back on the throttle as quickly as possible. Now heading up into turn number 7. It's a brief run through the left-hander, keeping the car as hard as possible over to left-hander in order to open up turn number 8. And you can see there were a dab of the brakes, the rear of the car getting unsettled as he now makes his way into turn number 9. Turn number 8 really being the setup zone for turn number 9 as he comes out of the right-hander over the rise once again. And now it's going to be the long sweeping run up towards turns 11 and 12 via turn 10. Through the uphill left-hander he goes and abusing the road camera to carry the speed, then into turn 11. But the thing is here, you're braking over the apex of turn 11 to set yourself up for the right-hander at turn number 12. And as he comes out of the corner, a little bit of traffic in front. Now it's downhill into turn number 13, holding it nice and tight to the apex, and then let the car go straight out here to set himself up for the braking zone for turn number 14, down to 2nd gear, down to 1st gear on the apex curve. And then as he comes on towards what will be turn number 15, onto the brakes and through the right-hander he goes, and out of the right-hander he will roll the car as he comes out of 15 and then onwards towards 16. But as he makes his way in towards the final corner here, it's all going to be about flat-out commitment all the way as much as he possibly can. And well, the closer you are to flat-out for the entirety of the corner, the better lap will be. As you can see, they bounce off the red limiter in 4th gear for a brief moment as he settled the car down before going up to 5th. And that is a lap of the Portimão Circuit, the Grand Prix lap with the chicanes, as brought to you by Duncan Moraes. The cross of the timeline doesn't improve that lap, but still a solid lap nonetheless, and gives us an idea of what exactly it takes in order to deliver a strong lap at Portimão. Now as he makes his way on through to another one, we move into the second half of this qualifying session, and we are hearing there's been some issues with the Facebook stream. Hopefully it has come back. As I say, we did have an intermittent disconnection. We're not quite sure what exactly happened there. We believe the service provider of service which enables us to distribute the stream to multiple media platforms together may have had a brief interruption. But hopefully that interruption has now been resolved. At least it seems to be resolved on YouTube. But if there are any technical issues, or alternatively you do seem to notice any issues, do let us know, and we will try to fix those where we can. As he comes out of turn number 6, meanwhile we look to Jaroslaw Cebula, our championship leader overall, as he makes his way on around and down there, coming on through what is their turn at number 8 into 9, and right now down in P9, and that's success ballast in the car, definitely holding back. And as he heads in towards turn number 10, and we'll come in the uphill run here, where it seems like we may have lost the Facebook stream from what I'm being told in my ear, and if so, we may not be able to get the Facebook stream back now, so therefore we are relegated to the YouTube stream for the rest of the evening. That's something we won't be able to fix here, and now we'll try and do it in between the race breaks, ladies and gentlemen, but I get the feeling the Facebook stream may have, unfortunately, have a bit of a technical issue, which has seen it come to an abrupt halt. But Cebula makes his way through turn 14 in towards 15. Well, right now, he's not coming to a halt. If anything, he's getting his head down and trying to deliver even more here and trying to move his way further up the order, but currently a non-improvement in sectors 1 and 2. And sector 3 is going to be the only sector here where perhaps he can gain a little bit more time as he rolls around to the end of the lap, and Cebula doesn't have a car to give him a tow, and in fact comes into the pits here to put on a fresh set of boots or a fresh set of tyres, and he'll be hoping that's going to be enough in order to be able to fix what has been a very difficult race qualifying session for Cebula so far, in terms of he'd love to be right up the front, but then again he is contesting against what will be best part of 56.1 kilograms of success ballast, plus also a circuit which is quite new in the tooth to everybody racing here today. Meanwhile, in terms of the other end of the spectrum, Dan Mould in P3, and right now only it was just shy of a 10th of the overall pole lap time, a 58.269 set by Adam Delmont. Daniel Downing being between the two of them, the leading prime driver, and I think Daniel Downing at this point, ever since his hiatus or his gap in season 7, well, I can tell you one thing, it's done nothing to dampen what is his enthusiasm and pace in the car, and as he roars his way across the line now of sector 1 and down towards sector 2, right now Downing, if he's not moved to the pro class come at the end of this round, well, I think he's going to be feeling as though he's quite confident in the prime class this season, but then again those class changes will be subject to the admins, and we don't have any say on them as he makes his way over the crest and in towards turn number 8. We're coming up through the Daniel Downing, the fastest prime driver, P2 overall. And what about in the AM class, I hear you ask? Well, we do have Marcel Fritsch, who's currently the fastest of our AMs, P27, and on what is a 2-minute 0.17. Looking quite good out there is the Verano Academy driver, racing in the colours of WS Racing Esports, and rolling on around and then in towards what is turn number 6. Right now, Marcel Fritsch looking to try and carry on from where he left off in round number 1 with that absolutely brilliant pole lap, and we'll be hoping to make it 2 pole positions out of 3 this season, and well, with that trying to assert himself as at least the fastest AM driver over a single lap, if not over all of what is the race distances. But we are coming towards the crunch point now in terms of this qualifying session. We're running out of time within it, and as he makes his way on through, well, I can definitely tell you that right now it is looking to be getting tighter and tighter, as Adam Delmont is still in the pit lane, and I believe that Adam Delmont is not deciding to go out once again anytime soon, and I think he might feel as though he's done enough and to be able to get the job done without needing to roll the car back out of the pits and go once again, as our overlay does refresh itself for a brief moment, and that is because some driver data is being loaded in the background. Don't adjust your TV sets, but Marcel Fritsch there stepping on the toes. The Aztec Racing drivers, they're all getting a little bit crowded here, and I think all 3 drivers are trying to discern who's meant to be where, trying to get out of each other's way, and Marcel Fritsch then decides just to roll the car deep at turn number 14 and take himself out of the equation. And a good call there. I wouldn't say he could have done anything else, as meanwhile we look a little bit further down in the AM class to Jonathan Berry, who's currently the lowest place of our AM drivers, who's set a valid time. And well, he was saying to me in the build-up to today, Jonathan, that the fact he's quite concerned that he's had a lot of technical issues in the build-up to round number 3, and well, he's actually in fact been building himself a whole new PC to resolve those technical issues, and he was building his PC yesterday evening as he messaged me with his pre-round faults, so therefore he's felt as though it's been up for debate whether he'd be able to race today, but it looks as though he's able to race, and thankfully we're very happy to see him here for Quarterbass Motorsport, and we're currently sat fourth in the AM Championship after 2 rounds, which he's very happy with. But the flip side of the coin is he feels though things could have been better, but then again he doesn't think as though he's been doing too badly, especially given the changeable conditions of the first 2 rounds, and feeling as though the rain really has been the biggest downfall of many in the AM class. And well, he doesn't feel as though the Audi's been too strong in the rain, but today the conditions being different, he may just be able to pick up the pace and deliver even more as he gets in very well for the chicane. Lee Horn taps him on the rear, and Horn's qualified session will come to a halt there. And I think Horn not expecting our AM driver to have such a slow run through the chicane compared to himself, at least. Albeit I can't say that right now Berry is going slow, but it definitely looks as though taking those sausage curves the way he did upset the balance of the car, and therefore it has been a bit of a challenge. But as he parks up as well and decides to tow to the pits, and we've got Dylan Hunter making his way on through with less than a minute on the clock. So everyone now towards the end of this session, as we do meanwhile look to the run up towards the timeline, and he's going to squeeze one more lap in. It will be Daniel Downing, who's currently P2, who sends himself onto his final flying lap, and he's going to be one of the last drivers to squeeze in this flying lap. And he decides to go all in here in order to see what he's going to be able to do before this qualifying session is done and dusted. And well, this is going to be a gamble here for Downing. Can he potentially become what is only one of 3 prime drivers to take an overall pole position? And the one that sits most notably in the mind is, of course, that pole position from Matthew Addy all the way back at Snetterton in what was, I believe, season 7. And well, as we do see Downing making his way on outer turn, turn number 5. Keeping his head down here and pushing on. I'm sure he'll be egging the car on from inside. Adam Delmont being what is 1.2 tenths faster, feels as though he's done enough, but right now it's all going to be proved in the end of what will be this qualifying session. And as he makes his way on through, well, it seems though Downing right now doing everything in his powers. William Guthrie has made his way into the pit lane. He's P4, so he can't improve any further. Dan Mould being more in P3, looking for a bit more. We've had an improvement from Craig Tillerson, who in fact has not improved overall, but he did improve in sector 2. Meanwhile, one driver who has not had strong qualifying performances this season so far, Gavin Garner for NXTGEN Pink, he's heading his way to the line, and as he heads up towards the timeline, what's it going to be from Gavin this time as they cross the line? And for Garner, he improves to P15, getting a little bit of the toe there off of Jamie Dory. Well, in fact, not Jamie Dory, Benjamin McCluskey. Dory's behind him there. Dory does not improve, stays P8, and McCluskey in the end is going to be qualifying P5. So the NXTGEN Pink drives helping out their teammate who's been the slowest of the trio, it would seem, in this qualifying session. And well, I think that's been a worthy sacrifice of their laps to help Gardner out, as meanwhile Smith crossed the line, flashing his lights there. Now whether that's because he knows he's on camera or he's had a bit of an incident with another driver, we're not quite sure, but he doesn't improve on that lap. Meanwhile, Russell Fowler's about to cross the timeline, and Russell Fowler, currently in what is P13, goes to line. Can he improve? He's 6 tenths on the pole. He does. In fact, he improves by what is there, almost 2 tenths, and moves to P12, so doesn't gain too much over Ben Altria. He only gains to 1 position, but still he'll be happy with that. And well, Daniel Downing did not improve on his final flying lap from what I'm hearing, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we've still got a couple more laps to go, and one lap that's yet to be set is Andrew Pine. This is going to be his first qualifying lap of the session, first valid one, and he goes P21. Not quite sure what's happened to the Sim Racing Collective driver, who was very happy to have Tom Davidson back with him on the grid, who's qualified P10, but Pike starts today P20, and that is an unexpected situation. Pike only getting 1 valid lap in. I don't know if there was a problem with the car before they made their way out into qualifying. They spent most of the session fixed it, but what I can tell you is Pike has qualified well out of his typical position, normally towards the bottom end of the top 10. And we've got Matt Evans here going a bit deep in towards the turn 14 hairpin, so I think he's on a cool down lap if anything. And Jonathan Collins making his way through. Well, that won't be a valid lap, and if it is a valid lap, it's going to be off the pace because it's been well over 2 minutes since we called time in the qualifying session. So qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen. It's Adam Delmont who has taken pole position, the first ever pole lap here at the Algarve Circuit, and he is ahead of prime pole sitter by 1.2 tenths of Daniel Downing. And your AM pole sitter, meanwhile, will be Marcel Fridge, who just managed to outqualify Kevin Smith by a 10th in the end, and will close between them. They'll line up P29, P30 respectively. So it has been a very close session in qualifying when you consider the AMs. In prime class, Daniel Downing dominating, qualifying by what has been 2 tenths over Tom Davidson, who returned to the grid and has taken P10. And overall, it's Adam Delmont who has absolutely delivered at the front, and a single 10th at least in qualifying is a major milestone to take pole by, and Adam Delmont really showing that he's got the masterclass when it comes to the single lap here at Portimão. As will qualifying come to its completion, ladies and gentlemen, and it's now time for us to head to the grid for race number 1. And as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day. It is none other than what is Adam Delman, who takes pole position for SRL with NXTGEN Gold. He's joined on the front row of the grid by Goldwing Motorsports' Daniel Downing, your prime pole sitter P2. A further, what is 5,000th behind, starting P3, is Dan Mould for SRL NXTGEN Gold, and the team are looking very strong in this qualifying session. Can they convert that into a double podium, perhaps even a 1-2? Well, William Guthrie would like to say differently, starting P4 for Full Tilt Motorsport on his return to the grid in the Pro class. Benjamin McCluskey starts staying on the third row of the grid, P5 for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Wayne Douglas Motorsport. Another strong qualifying session there for both drivers, and both of them in the Veloster. With Mikey Doble starting P7 for Doble Sim Racing, a better qualifying session compared to his two more recent endeavours, albeit with, what is that, 48 kilograms of success ballast as well. Well done on Mikey, with Jamie Dory, his old rival, and indeed both of them there being two of our three crowned overall champions, multi-time champions at that. Well, they are going to line up on the fourth row together, with the NXTGEN Pink driver Dory being followed up by his teammate Jaroslaw Cebula. The top 10 is completed by your second place pro driver Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective, and then we do have Lee Horn beginning his journey today, P11 at best of the rest for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing, head of Russell Fowler for Verano Esports. On row number 7, it'll be Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport, who's in at the ample company of Ben Gregory, his teammate, and then we have Gavin Garnett lined up on the 8th row of the grid after what has been a late improvement in qualifying, and the NXTGEN Pink driver will have Track Scotland's Stuart Wyness, who finds himself starting P16, the best of himself and his teammate, albeit quite low down, and will be looking to improve upon that as soon as possible. Duncan Moraes starts P17 for Goldwing Motorsport, ahead of Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport, and your top 20 is completed by Goldwing Motorsport's Andy Fox and the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pyatt with that nightmare end to his qualifying session. Nick Lewin starts P21 for iRacing Esports, ahead of Lewis Delmont, with the younger member of the Delmont family having a challenging qualifying session but starting to find his pace, P22 for SR NXTGEN Gold, and it's Matthew Sheraton, P23 for Aztec Racing, head of Reswap for JWM Motorsport. We then do have behind them on row number 13, Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing and Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, followed up by Kieran Smart for Track Scotland and Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing, and the 499 driver yet to really find his pace, with regards to this season, having been moved to the Prime class, and therefore hoping for a better run of form today after a lot of bad luck as well in the first two rounds of the season. And your top 30 is completed by the AM pair, your AM pole sitter and Marcel Fritsch for Verano Academy, and the Austrian driver being followed up by the Englishman of Kevin Smith, his teammate, and the two of them will look to try and work together, I suspect, but also there might be a little bit of rivalry between the two of them. Aztec Racing's Gabriel Papaconstantou was only in the end what was 1.5 hundredths behind Smith and lines up P31. It's going to be a spicy top 3 in the AM class into turn 1, no doubt about it, with Jake Pitt starting P32 for Aztec Racing alongside his teammate. Then we have NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing Jonathan Collins P33 ahead of Sean Doby for ATEC Tech Racing, with Lewis Mason starting a P35 there for Aztec Racing and moved to the team since round number 2 as I've been informed, and Eduardo Gonzaga completes the 18th row of the grid for National Racing Team. We'll then have behind them on row number 19, Sammy Arriba for Quartermass Motorsport and Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing, with your top 40 being completed by James Mazesgal for Aztec Racing and Andy Chell for Quartermass Motorsport. Dylan Hunter begins his first NXTCC race for DH Racing, P41. He's in the company of Matt Emmons for Verano Esports. And then we have Craig Tillerson and Jonathan Berry completing what is the 22nd row of the grid for Verano Academy and Quartermass Motorsport respectively, with Josh Brown, P45 for National Racing Team, and a Sam Van Os for Goldwing Motorsport. And then starting, last but not least, P47 is Alan McCain for iRacing Esports. So 47 starters here, ladies and gentlemen, in our first ever race at the Algarve International Circuit, and who will come away with victory come the end of this 11-lap thriller? Will it be Adam Delman, who starts on the right, on the outside, or will it be Daniel Downing, the pro and pole sitter, who starts P2? Well, it's clear skies above us, so look out the commentator booth. We know it is a sunny day here in Portugal, and will the sunshine translate into a different run of form? Well, the lights are going on, and without further ado, ladies and gents, it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go as all the drivers roar their way down towards turn number 1, and it's a good start for Adam Delman as Daniel Downing now starts to get into the second phase of Lodge. He'll look up the inside here, and Downing's going to go for the move into turn 1 as the field makes its way on down, and as we do, we look to the blimp camera there as they all concertina into the opening chicane, and remember they double back on themselves initially. Wayne Douglas there getting a little bit firm with which Jamie Dory as they make the way on through. Further down the order, more drivers starting to squeeze their way through. The Anfield really now starting to get always out. Driver sideways, that's Josh Brown who's been turned, I believe. believe, as they all make their way through, but everyone has survived what is the opening chicane, and well done to all the drivers for making it on through as they start to make their way up the rise. We've got a driver blinking in and out there of the internet ether. Driver sideways, that is Quartermass Motorsports. What is there? None other than, I believe, Andy Shelby in turn size. 2 cars round there on the exit of turn number 5, but most drivers now getting themselves up to speed as they make the way out to turn number 6. And Downmont has come back at Daniel Downing into the chicane at turn number 4, and that's why he's back into the lead this race as Downing now looks to give pursuit. But meanwhile behind we've got Benjamin McCluskey also in the hunt here as the next gen peak driver stays firmly on the rear of Mikey Doble, and Mikey Doble, one of the biggest gainers inside the top 10, 2 places gained at the start, and making quick work of what was his rivals around him as they come on down the rise and in towards turns 10 and 11. Up the crest they'll go very shortly, and McCluskey just staying firmly behind. Meanwhile, further behind we've got 2 wide here, in fact 3 wide as Matthew Sheridan on the inside there, appears out of nowhere, and well, Duncan Ray's right now battling side by side with what is Andrew Pike, and both drivers here I think trying to negotiate this situation as Ray's goes very deep. Meanwhile, oh goodness me, and it looks like Mark Sykes are going very sideways into turn 12. He survives it, but it's going to be 4 wide just in front as they head up towards turn number 15, and the whole field parts its ways as we see that a wounded Track Scotland car limping along. Lewis Mason meanwhile being nudged there by James Smatzesgow, and well, as the Aztec Racing drives exchange paint, they come down towards turn number 15. It's the last thing you want to do is rub paint with one of your teammates, and as they come out of the downhill hairpin and now in towards turn number 16, where it's definitely been a very furtive opening lap for many a driver as the DH Racing machine of Dylan Hunter looks to carry on, but you see the Track Scotland car there struggling on. That's Kieran Smart with wounds, and well, meanwhile we look up towards the front of the field. Adam Delmont right now for SO NXTGEN Gold still leads, but under major pressure from Daniel Downing as they head into lap number 2, and Downing on the inside here, but middle of all this fight it's 3 wide, and here comes Dan Mould. He takes 1, he takes 2, or does he, as he comes into the hairpin, and Mould is known for his eccentric moves, and that is an absolutely brilliant one to take the lead, and Dan Mould demonstrating why he's a pro driver and why you can never count him out. As they come down towards turn number 6, well, Mould absolutely going in the attack, hard on the brakes they go, and Adam Delmont now under pressure on William Guthrie. Well, it looks like Delmont in fact looking for the move of Downing there, and as they come out of the turn 6 hairpin, Downing and Delmont right now absolutely locking horns here, and I think the red mist has slightly descended, the fact they can't see that Mould's running away, and instead they're so busy fighting each other. But coming on down through what is there, turn number 8 in towards 9, well, Downing still making sure that Delmont doesn't have the right to finish off that move to try and come back at him. If anything, Downing right now trying to use what is a slightly lighter car in order to break away, and he does so as this top 10 pack continues to get closer and closer. Next Gen Ping got 3 drivers in this pack, McCluskey, Cebula and Dory, and all staying together. But meanwhile, further down the order, let's not forget we've also had some changes further down, including Jaroslaw Collins, who is your AM leader out of all of this, and well, as Collins makes his way towards the end of this lap via turn number 12, he's got Kevin Smith for close company. But what exactly happened to Marcel Fritsch at the start of the race is the big question. Well, here is a replay to explain. And we jump on board with Marcel Fritsch, the number 7 driver from Vrano Academy, on this race start, and I think lost out quite significantly at the start, albeit the launch here in the Honda Civic Type R absolutely being spot on as he made his way away. And you'll see there a little bit of wheel smoke from drivers, and well, Fritsch in the end managed to tuck it to the inside here in the downhill run. I think at this point a bit sensitive on the throttle, backed off, and in doing so enabled a number of drivers to look around the outside. You'll see there the Vrano Academy driver Kevin Smith looking around the outside. You'll see him there in what is the wing mirror, albeit the central mirror if you will. And well, in the end, that's how Smith got ahead of Fritsch, losing out the place there and came out of what was turn number 3. And Jonathan Collins just went around the outside. Fritsch looked to try and dive up the inside here to turn number 4. And well, in the end, did get up the inside, but Collins was never going to back out. They made the way at the crest, and a lovely return move there for Jonathan Collins to explain how he got through. And Marcel Fritsch in the end having to part the seas with many a car. And I think that was Matt Emmons who was turned around. But that was your race start there for Marcel Fritsch and explaining what exactly happened in terms of Collins and Smith getting on past. But how Collins took the lead, we're not quite sure. But we've got return to live racing, ladies and gentlemen, as we do look here to Nick Clibbins, who right now has Lewis Delmont close behind him. They're fighting over P7 in the Pro-Am class, and Delmont looks the inside there, but hasn't got enough space to be able to do so in terms of leverage on the brakes, so therefore he's going to wait for his turn as they head out of the corner. And well, they stay close, but not close enough right now for Clibbins to feel as though he can make the, well, in fact, for Delmont to feel as though he can make the move, as I get my drivers in the wrong order here as they roll the one down, such as the pace they're running at. But as they head up the hill very shortly, meanwhile, we've got more to come just up the road. Stuart Winus, the sole Track Scotland car inside the top 15, just hanging on right now, top 15 overall. P4 in the Pro-Am class currently after what was the dismissal of Kieran Smart on the open lap, dismissed to the pits with damage on the car. And coming in towards turn number 12, we can see there Ben Trier in the new full Tilby Motorsport colours, the official colours, after running what was the golden car to celebrate his championship campaign in season 7 of the Prime class, but promoted to Pro for this season. He's now gone back to the traditional new livery of the car, and we're heading out to turn number 14 in towards 15. Minus right now just settling down here and trying to get himself into a rhythm. And well, we can tell you, ladies and gents, with the fact that this Portimão circuit is a warmer circuit compared to the ones we've raced on previously, especially given the sunshine, and the Hyundai Elantras in particular, we've had a running theme with them in the NXTCC's history, which is as soon as the track temperature goes above 40 degrees centigrade, they really struggle on those front tyres. And well, with regards to the weather currently, as we show you on the right side of the screen, track temperature nowhere near that 40 degree mark, in fact 28 degrees centigrade, but still it's a hot circuit, and that is why the Elantras may be struggling a little bit, because those front tyres have to be protected. But meanwhile, speaking of protected things, that is Gavin Gardner trying to hold off Ben Gregory for P12, as Gregory looking around the outside to inside, and we're a little bit of squeeze there towards the apex. Gardner reopens the door just in time to say to Gregory, look, there is space there, you're just going to need to be careful, and Gregory backs out. But meanwhile, Wyness says, okay, if you're going to back out and going all in, a little bit of a knock between the two of them there, and Stuart Wyness says, I'll take P3 in pro, thank you very much. And will Ben Gregory be caught napping as meanwhile Ben Trier is sent out wide as they come out of turn number 5, and right now Stuart Wyness absolutely going all in there, and I think taking a bit of inspiration from what Dan Mould did earlier at the same corner, albeit it was a 3 wide there, not a 2 wide, but the point being the number 61 driver seeing an opportunity and not wanting to waste it, but coming out of the corner, and now upwards they'll go towards the end of this lap. As meanwhile further back, we've also got some battling here between Andy Chell and what is Josh Brown as they fight over P8 in the AM class. They may be well outside the overall top 15, but to these guys it's big points on the line, and the Quartermass Motorsport driver right now tucked in behind Brown as they're coming down. Oh goodness, been an instant in front, and that is why the Quartermass Motorsport cars, that's Sammy Ariba that's been sent sideways coming out of turn 6 hairpin. Oh my goodness, and that is a return for Craig Tillerson, and I think he's been turned around, and I don't think there was any malice meant there, but I think as Ariba's rejoined, he's come to a convergence pass with Tillerson, and Tillerson has ended up becoming the victim of the whole situation. Well, we'll try and get a replay of that when we can, ladies and gentlemen, but Andy Chell now bringing himself onto the back of his teammate. And his prime teammate right now will be looking to try and move a bit further up the order. Jonathan Berry is just behind as the 3 Quartermass Motorsport machines run together. And in fact, we have a replay of what exactly happened there. Well, here is the replay, and well, as we can see, Sammy Ariba here, the focus, battling side by side with what is the car of Sam Bernals. Onto the brakes, 3 wide they went, and then a tap to the inside of the car from Sam Smith for Sammy Ariba. So the 3 Sams in the end all went into the corner, 2 emerged from him, as Ariba's rejoined. He's come onto the path of Craig Tillerson there, as it was a similar 3 wide, and that explains exactly what's happened. But of course, that may go to the stewards afterwards, and the stewards have plenty more camera angles and data compared to what we have in the commentary booth here. But that was the story of what happened on lap number 4 between them, and meanwhile we come back to the lead lap, and indeed race leaders, as they come out to turn number 4 into 5, and Dan Mould continuing to just tiptoe away here little by little as he heads onwards towards turn number 6. Daniel Downing right now absolutely digging in there in P2 and trying to make sure that nobody else gets any closer, and I think right now the number 62 driver from SO Extra Gold of Mould, he'll be grateful for the fact that Daniel Downing has been absolutely obstinate in that P2 position, and I don't think Downing's doing it intentionally to make sure Mould gets away. I think Downing wants that P2 overall, and he'll do anything to take it as the leading prime driver. William Guthrie here now says, okay Adam, in terms of Adam Delman, I've got an opportunity, cuts it back into turn 9, can't quite find it. Delman sees it coming and absolutely parks the car on apex, and as we ride on board here, well, for a brief moment it looks like they're driving into the sky, given the fact they're driving over the rise, and then down the hill they go. But Guthrie absolutely attacking non-stop for Full Tilt Motorsport, and well, you can tell you one thing, 5 seasons away from the NXTCC, and that has not dulled his senses whatsoever. And well, the number 36 driver here, the big question I have to ask is, why haven't we seen him back sooner? Because right now he's sinking his teeth right into this as if he's never been away. But coming in towards turn number 14, and through the left-hander he goes, and we've still got plenty more laps of racing here before the checker flag comes on out, and Guthrie right now absolutely attacking corner after corner as he makes his way on around through turn number 15, and will Delmont having to continue to focus more and more on just defending, but looking for the back of Guthrie's car, that is Mikey Doble, who's been with him since what has been lap number 2, and Doble not close enough to make a move yet, but noticeably we do have quite the mixture of cars inside the top 5. We've got 2 Hyundais, 2 Hondas and an Audi, so it goes to show you you that balance of performance between the different manufacturers and also the success bars, bringing them all together with what is 2 Velocitas, 2 Honda Civic tyre bars and an Audi RS3, and then we've got another Honda coming up right behind before another Audi. So everyone right now definitely making the most of their respective machinery, but nobody right now able to really get a clear break. As meanwhile, speaking of race, oh my goodness, onto the brakes goes Jaroslaw, and his race comes to an absolute breaking point into the barrier at turn 1. We caught the end of that. Now, was there contact? Was he aided? I'm not quite sure, but what I am sure is we can get a replay of that straight away, and here it is. This was coming down, battling side by side with Ben Gregory, who's on the left of your pitch in the full tilt motorsport Elantra. On the brakes they went, and Gregory there looked as though went onto the brakes at an angle into the downhill drop. What was going straight, and the two converged, and what in the end had all the energy translated across into the car and into the barrier. And well, that is going to be a heartbreak for JWM Motorsport, because Jaroslaw was doing so well up to that point, and it's all gone wrong. The cars had to be towed to the pits. But meanwhile, whilst that's happened, Adam Delmont now falling away from Daniel Downing under pressure from William Guthrie, and Mikey Doble, they're closing up. Meanwhile, whilst that's going on, well, there's action everywhere, and we've even got more fighting here, as we've got a battle for P6 in the AM class between Gabriel Papconstantu, the Audi RS3 from Aztec Racing, who's running away, Andy Chell and Josh Brown, and Chell's trying to make the move of Brown and taps him sideways into the hairpin, and well, Brown's going to go out into the gravel there. Andy Chell comes back alive behind, but I think they're trying to lift off the throttle to give the place back. But the problem's going to be here that given the instant, he's not really going to have time to give the place back, because now Brown is 5 places back on them. But as they make the way on down in towards turn number 8, Andrew Pike looks up the inside, and there is also what is Jonathan Berry, and Pike right now being given as good as he could get there, the pro driver having to fight against the AM drivers in a very frustrating race for Andrew Pike, after only being able to join qualifying right at the end for a single qualifying lap that puts him P20 on the grid. But Pike right now having to try and fight his way back past the AMs. And well, this is definitely going to be an exercise in patience and also smarts as he heads on through what is turn number 12 and up towards 13. And well, as he heads onto the brakes here right now, just trying to get it all together as rapidly as possible and keep his head down. But coming out of the corner and in towards turn number 15, where he's going to have to wait a little bit longer, as from what is Andrew Pike, we do look back up the order to what is a 2x2 here into turn number 1. And this is Nick Clemens fighting with Samson and Ben Gregory. Gregory, who only a lap ago was in that contact with Reese Watt. Well, now Ben Gregory still fighting hard with Lewis Delman and where's Matthew Sheraton behind, and these drivers are all prime drivers, and they are fighting over P4 in the prime class as they make the way out to turns 4 and 5 and onwards towards 6. And Nick Clemens right now holding on to the coveted position as they come down towards that braking zone, but roaring the way down. We do say hello briefly to Edward Ned Wharton in the YouTube chat. We can't look away from the racing for too long, ladies and gents, because anything could happen at any moment as Lewis Delmont finds himself battling with Matthew Sheraton, and behind Isaac Doble is on the back of this prime pack, the pro driver, one of our youngest drivers on the grid right now, having to pick his way through. And after a difficult qualifying session for Isaac, you would imagine it's only going to be more difficult here as he tries to find those spaces out of the circuit. But they go from being 2 wide to being one single line file very shortly. And meanwhile, a bit further behind, we've got Russell Fowler under pressure here from, in fact, that's Russell Fowler putting pressure on Matt Evans, I should say, for the final top 10 spot of the prime class, P24 overall. And the Verano Esports drivers, I think, are going to stay together as they come into and down, into and down what is turn number 10, and I think trying to work together here, but also a little bit of battling between them. And as long as they keep it clean, I'm sure the team managers will not mind. But then again, it's one thing to make contact with your teammate, it's another thing to pass them, and well, you can imagine that inter-team rivalry will only serve to flare up should they start to trade a bit of paint between each other. Fowler looks up the inside here into turn number 14. Emmons gives him all the space in the world. It looks at the cutback here, something the Honda's very strong in, is in acceleration in the lower gears and on the brakes, but Russell Fowler gets the move done coming into turn 15 and cements the deal for P24 or P10 in Pro-Am. But then looking back up to the bottom end of the top 10, a driver which we haven't really talked about too much, Wayne Douglas looking up the inside of Tom Davidson into the hairpin, goes all in. Davidson sees it's coming and will hold the inside there to turn 2. Douglas can't shut the door on this one, as right now Tom Davidson, who's P2 in the Sim Racing Collective car for the prime class, gets elbowed sideways there by Douglas coming into turn number 3. Did he give the right amount of space to Douglas? Well, that's a question for debate, but now that's going to enable Lee Horn to get on through. But for Davidson, surely right now he's got to keep in mind he's P2 in prime and he doesn't need to throw this away. as they come down towards what will be turn number 6. But as they come on down towards the braking zone, well, right now, Davidson, well, he's enjoying the battling with the pros out there, but he's got to keep in mind the next prime driver is Stuart Winers, who's only 1.3 seconds back. And here is Winers, the Scotsman, chasing after the Briton as they head up towards what will be turn number 8 once again. And Winers right now just keeping his head down with Ben Altrier hot on his heels and Nick Clibbins a bit further back. That's Reece Watt, you can see in the rear of the picture. He's a lap down, but would love to be here right now on the lead lap, given he was there until that contact between himself and Ben Gregory. The drivers now make the way in towards turns 10, 11 and 12, and in coming on through we look to Lee Horn, who's under pressure from Davidson, and the NXTGEN Orange Risky Runners racing driver right now having to fend off a fast charging Pro-Am who absolutely wants to try and get back into that top 10 and score some more overall points, and also help out in the teams championship for TSRC. And well, TSRC has been the solo effort of Andrew Pike up until this round for this season, and therefore for Tom Davidson it's a late arrival, but one that he'll be very happy to have made, and therefore be very eager to make a good impression on season 8. All the way down towards the back of the running order, this is Andy Fox, the Goldwyn Motorsport driver, who had a nightmare start to the race, and well, since that nightmare, the number 21 driver now trying to gain some more places back in preparation for race number 2. Remember, where they finish in this race is where they start in race number 2, and we try to pick his way past Josh Brown, and Brown being demoted down the order earlier on after some contact. Well, now Andy Fox is allowed to go past Brown. Brown decides to get out of the way rather than fight it, and Fox will know that's one more place he doesn't need to tick off in the second race of the day. Meanwhile, looking at back up towards the front of the field, albeit towards what is the coattails of the top 20. This is Ben Gregory pounding his way down. That's Matthew Sheraton on his inside, on his outside, I should say, cutting back to the inside, albeit blinking in and out of existence at this point. And the full tilt Motorsport driver with a little bit of contact there with Sheraton. Well, we'll see Sheraton appear back in front, but Gregory right now, I get the feeling we're trying to guess where exactly Sheraton is in all of this, as behind us Lewis Delmont, and they all start to concertina into turn at number 4. And Gregory at this point, well, I don't think he knows exactly where he can put the car to look for a move on Sheraton. But roaring the way up towards turn at number 6. Well, the question will be in a minute, does he decide to go for it? Meanwhile, Lewis Delmont says, okay, I'm going to look for it if you're struggling. And as they come down towards turn 6, looking on the outside, does Lewis Delmont. But remember, he could go for the cut back here and force Gregory to go a little bit deep into the corner. But Gregory does none of that. And Delmont, in fact, I think has a bit of a slow turn in there and decides, in the end, it's probably not worth the full investment, at least on this lap. We still do have another 2 laps after this one, and he may go for it towards the end of the race, where it may be the tyre life advantage that the Honda normally has over race distance will come into effect versus the tyre burning Elantras that we normally do see where they drop off in the final quarter of the race by comparison to their peers. But as these drivers head up the rise and in towards turns 12 and 13, looking at back up to the bottom end of the top 10, this is Lee Horn still chasing after Wayne Douglas, with Douglas having made that move into turn 1 at the start. It's like that absolutely brilliant move from Wayne Douglas to take P9, and Lee Horn now looking to try and hold on here to the bottom end of the top 10 with Tom Davidson right behind, also trying to come back at Douglas, no question about it. But as they head on towards turn at number 16, well, you'll see here the Honda, for all its prowess in the corners, it really does struggle on the straights by comparison with the rest of its peers. And whilst he will be in 5th gear and with the toe of Wayne Douglas, and both drivers were limited amount of success ballast in the car, if any at all, well, no progress here in the toe. He'll gradually gain now as they head into top gear and start to head towards their maximum speed, but it's not enough as the gap comes down to 2.5 tenths from what was 3.5 at the start of the run. And Lee Horn in the end tugging it behind as Douglas goes a little bit deep into the chicane, overcooks it on the brakes, the car cuts loose, but Horn here staying in right behind, and well, in the end coming out of turn number 3, Horn looks to the inside here, Douglas leaves the door open, but is confident that Horn's not close enough to be able to look for the lunge up the inside, and Horn here playing it safe. And I think keeping in mind there's 2 more races on this day, and a P10 finish in race number 1 is nothing to scoff at when you've got this competitive a field. As behind him is Gavin Gardner, and well, Gardner started P15 in P12 and has made quite a bit of progress as he continues on his way onto the back of this group, rolling on through what is at turn number 6, and right now looking for his own opportunity to get involved here as Davidson has to go defensive through 7 to set up 8 on the inside. Gardner looking around the outside now, will Gardner get the better run here given Davidson's had a very tight line. He tries to, but Davidson gets the car stopped in time coming into turn number 8. Brilliant bit of defensive driving there from Davidson. Meanwhile, run wide there behind from what is Wine is cutting some gravel onto the circuit, and Trier also staying close as they all look to chase after the final spots in the overall top 10. back inside the podium fighting positions. This is Adam Delmont who's holding on to third place as Dan Mulder and Daniel Downing make the way through. Meanwhile, looking up the inside is William Guthrie. A bit of contact between the two of them. Delmont holding on there, but this is getting very, very tasty between the two as they make the way down through turn number 15. And Guthrie right now getting so close that you can make out each and every LED on their headlights there, the Hyundai Veloster, as they come through turn number 60 for the penultimate time in this race. And look at that Hyundai go as they come out of the corner, and where he'll try and slingshot his way down the start finish straight here. 2/10 is the gap, but Delmont gets the better X out of turn 60 and opens that gap up to 2.5 tenths initially as they come down, and Delmont goes defensive. He goes to the wall here, and Guthrie says, okay, I'll open up the inside into turn number 1. And as they come down to the braking zone, Delmont will be given the space, but Guthrie's going to go all the way round to look for the cutback into the inside into turn 2. Can't find it, mounts the sausage curb, and Mikey Doble tucks in behind here, as now it's all about who is going to go for the move and when. I think right now Doble is thinking about it, as you can see there. Look at that for Jaroslaw Cebula. Cebula goes all in, catching Doble by surprise, but Doble defends it now into turn 5, and the next gen pink driver, your championship leader, right now trying to gain some more points here on the second place championship driver as they come down towards turn 6. Behind them you've got Dorian McCluskey running nose to tail, albeit I think they're going to stay in formation to the very end here and work together to finish this race in their current positions. But right now this battle is continuing to build to a crescendo, and Doble looking for 1 or 2 more places. From them, we've also got battling between Wayne Douglas and Lee Horn for P9. They've done that at the hairpin, and Douglas has still held on for now as the Douglas Motorsport driver just keeping his head down and pushing on as much as he possibly can. But these drivers absolutely pushing each other to the limit at this point of the race. And well, from them, we do look back up into the battle for P3 at this time, and we can see that Delmont now having to go defensive practically every corner in order to fend off Guthrie. Guthrie looking left, right, and centre as Cebula looks up the inside. The Honda goes in on the brakes, going in hot. Doble just lets the car roll out wide because he knows he's got the inside set up for the next left-hander, and now onto the brakes they'll go for turn 14, and Cebula looks to cut it once again, gets very close. He can't find it as Doble sees it coming every corner, and Cebula's trying everything at this to try and put his championship rival under pressure. Down into turn 16 they go, and as they do, we must look to the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen, because he was denied at Motorsport his first victory of the season. But this time, it won't be strategy, it won't be the wet weather, because in the sunshine of Portugal, Dan Mould will take the checker flag. Winner of race number 1 here today at the Algarve Circuit, ahead of Daniel Downing, your pro and winner P2. For Goldwyn Motorsport, Adam Delmont completes the run to P3 there for SL NXTGEN Gold ahead of William Guthrie. Mikey Doble finishes P5, fending off Jaroslaw Cebula to the line. And then we Jamie Dory, Benjamin McCluskey, Tom Davidson, who takes the runner-up spot in the Pro-Am class, P9 overall, and Gavin Garner completes your top 10, just missing out on P9. Ahead of Stuart Winnis, who takes the 3rd spot on the Pro-Am podium. Kevin Smith comes on through the final corner, and the Verano Academy team will be jubilant at this one because he finally notches his first-hand win of the season, and he does it in style. P22 for Kevin Smith as he crossed the line just behind his sister team's driver Russell Fowler, and P2 in the AM class will be Gabriel Yilmaz, who just out-drags Marcel Fritsch to the line for the runner-up AM spot in their fight with Marcel Fritsch P3 in the AM class, and it will then be Alan McCain behind him and Lewis Mason, the Aztec Racing driver, who just misses out on the AM podium, but P29 P4 class. More to come still. We've got Andy Chell battling here with Andy Fox, the battle of the 2 Andys, but in the end it will be the Fox who beats Chell as they cross the line, and then we will see Sammy Ariba just behind them in the fight for P34, and as the last 4 drivers make the way to the line, give them all a round of applause. They've had an absolutely fantastic race from start to finish, albeit we've had some drivers who had a late fall from grace, it would seem. Sam Knowles takes P41, and we've got Sean Doby P42 here very shortly for the ATEC Racing driver who's still getting acclimatised to TCR machines. Duncan Reyes will finish P43, and then Craig Tillerson will be your last lead lap finisher in what will be P24. But some are asking, what exactly happened to Jonathan Collins? There was a major incident, I think, for Collins, or something went very wrong for him, and I believe there's been a premature retirement due to a technical issue on the car that'll see him drop down the order, but we can't quite confirm it, and we haven't got anything to suggest it with regards to the replay footage available. Craig Tillerson will be your last lead lap finisher, P44. But as our drivers all make the way on around on the cool-down lap, Dan Mould will be absolutely over the moon that this time he did get it wrong with strategy with the team. They nailed it with what was a 3-wide move into turn 4. He gained the lead this race, and after that he never looked back in what could be an early contender for move of the season. No questions asked. Daniel Downing as well, run up in the Pro-Am class, and what a drive from him. Well, winner of the Pro-Am class, I should say, runner up overall, what a drive from him. And Adam Delmont completing that overall podium, having fended off the charge of William Guthrie and Mikey Doble. And a special mention to William Guthrie, returning to the grid today, and it's like he's never been away, absolutely giving it everything. Tom Davidson as well, making his debut for Season 8, albeit it was on the grid in Season 7, but the Sim Racing Collective driver P2 in the Pro-Am class, and Stuart Winus there completing the Pro-Am podium in brilliant fashion as Kevin Smith brings the car around here. And well, the Verano Academy team, I can already see there in the YouTube chat, Katie Eames and also Mike Barber absolutely happy for Kev, and will the 94 driver make his way into the pit lane, and that will be into the welcome arms of his team and pit crew, who'll be absolutely jumping up and down with joy at that one. Well, Gabriel Yilmaz in the end preventing what could have been a Verano Academy 1-2 in the AM class, but still Marcel Fridge, well, he'll be happy with that P3 class, knowing he was almost there. As the drivers make the way down the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And well, here they are, ladies and gentlemen. And as we can see, in what was a thrilling encounter for race number 1 of the day in round 3 of Season 8 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Dan Mould, your winner for SO and NXTGEN Gold by 1 second over Goldwyn Motorsports' Daniel Downing. The Pro-Am winner, P2, ahead of SO and NXTGEN Gold's Adam Delmont, who was 3 seconds behind and did everything he could to hold on to the final spot of the overall podium, and he did exactly that. William Guthrie finished P4, and we'll know now the change will rise as the success bars will be increased in the car for Full Tilt Motorsports driver ahead of Mikey Doble, who finished P5 from Double Sim Racing, fending off a late challenge from Jaroslaw Cebula, who for Next Gen Pink finished ahead of his teammates Jamie Doria and Benjamin McCluskey. Tom Davidson was your runner-up in the Pro-Am class, P9 for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of Gavin Garner for Next Gen Pink. Great drive there for Garner to move from P15 to P10 over the race distance. Stuart Winus, P3 in Pro-Am, P11 overall for Track Scotland, and well, a silent but succinct result there for the number 61 driver ahead of Wayne Douglas for Douglas Motorsport, who had to hold off Lee Horn to the finish, and Horn finishing P13 for Next Gen Orange Whiskey Runners after a late altercation, I believe, between the drivers, and Ben Altrier and Nick Clemens completed your top 15 there for Full Tilt Motorsport and iRace Esports respectively. Mary Sheraton was P16 for Aztec Racing ahead of iRace Esports' Sam Smith, and then we saw your top 20 be rounded out by none other than what was Ben Gregory, Lewis Delman and Isaac Doble. Russell Fowler was P21 at the close for Verano Esports ahead of his sister team's driver for Verano Academy and your AM class winner P22, Kevin Smith. James Pazos Galfish P23 ahead of Matt Emmons, with Jake Pitt just closing off the top 25. Then Gabriel Yilmaz, the runner-up in the AM class for Aztec Racing, fended off Marcel Fritsch, with the two separated by less than 1.5 tenths at the checker flag. The Verano Academy driver completed a double podium for the team in P27 of Marcel Fritsch, and we saw then Alan McCain P28 with your top 30 being completed by fourth place AM driver Lewis Mason and Andrew Pike there, who's had a definitely difficult day so far, but he'll be hoping for more in races 2 and 3. Mark Sykes, P31, started to move up the ranks ahead of Eduardo Gonzaga, with Gabriel Papaconstantiu completing the AM top 5 P33. And it was Andy Fox ahead of Andy Chell, with Sammy Ariba, Michael Lees, Jonathan Berry, Kieran Smart and Josh Brown completing your top 40. Sam Van Ols P41 after that late instant and ahead of Sean Doby, with Duncan Morris P43, Craig Tiddleson, your last lead lap finisher, P44, and then finishing that lap down, Jonathan Collins and Reese Watt with 2 laps down to debutant today, and it didn't quite go the way he wanted it in race number 1, Dylan Hunter, P47 out of our 47 starters for DH Racing. So 47 starters, 47 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, which is what we love to see, 44 of them on the lead lap, and we've still got plenty more racing to come here at the Autodromo International du Algarve, because race number 2 is just around the corner. And do let us know in the intermission what are your favourite moments from race number 1. But until then, ladies and gents, we'll be back in about 7 to 8 minutes time. We'll just step away and leave you a brief word from our title sponsor for this season, and that is Doble Motorcycles. We will see you very shortly. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you'll receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Race 2 of 3 here today in round 3 of the NXTCC Season 8 powered by Doble Motorcycles. And well, race number 1 was an absolutely brilliant 11-lap thriller, and we've got more to come in race number 2, no doubt about it. And particularly if your name is Mikey Doble, he finished P5 in race number 1, but I suspect he was hoping for a little bit more in race number 1 with regards to what was being able to try and go for that overall podium, albeit in the end being held at bay by William Guthrie, but also to fend off a late charging Jaroslaw Cebula. And it seems as though the Audi RS3 goes quite well here at Portimão, but the Honda really coming alive in the closing stages, and that's what Cebula was able to do despite having the greater success ballast in the car. And well, could we expect similar in our second race of the day? Well, I think Doble very eager to take the number 88 and take it as far as possible towards the very top of the field. But as our drivers get themselves set for the second race, well, we do need to give out a couple of shout-outs, including to Michael Evangeli, depending on how you prefer to be pronounced, good sir, in the YouTube chat. And I hope you're doing well, Michael, who's saying entertaining this one with regards to race number 1. We also say hello there in the YouTube chat to Handsome Stew, and giving us the update there to say that with regards to Andrew Pike early on, we was only able to get one lap in qualifying, so he was still updating his iRacing client in response to the major update, and that would explain the story there. We also do say hello in the Twitch chat to Lydia Juliet 1234, and also there to Sophia James at 00, and I hope you both are doing well. But we are now back for race number 2, and as we are, well, we also need to give a shout out not to somebody in the chat, but he's definitely tuning in. And well, as we do try to find our driver who's out there at the moment, Jonathan Berry's parked up in the pit lane, and well, the Portimão Motorsport drivers asked me, and I'm more than happy to give a shout out to his dad John. And John, I believe, is tuning in via YouTube at the moment. A good evening to you, John, or as you're nicknamed, I do believe, the elderberry of the family. And we're very happy to have multiple generations of what is the Berry family either racing the NXTCC or tuning in. And I'm sure you'll be absolutely beaming the fact that your son's out there right now, giving it his all despite technical issues, which did see him finish P7 in the AM class in race 1. But he'll be trying to go even higher in race number 2, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to do. But well, a big shout out there to the elderberry of the Berry family. And well, from one John to the other, well, Jonathan Berry will look to do his dad proud, no doubt about it. But speaking of a man who did his team proud, or the family you could say, on the XTCC grid, Tom Davidson, and as he makes his way out of what is turn number 16, a P2 in the Pro-Am class, also what was chasing after a top 10 finish in race number 1, and I suspect we could see plenty more in race number 2, and well, the number 42 driver absolutely frying himself at race number 1, and well, it goes to show when he pulls off a result like that. As he comes on through the open couple of corners. We haven't got too long before our second race of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and well, I can tell you one thing, this grid is getting packed once again. And Sean Doby will be hoping to make a little bit more forward progress this time as he gets himself set up for this race. But how far can he go? Indeed, how far can all of our drivers go? Because remember, this race does have its own unique dynamic in the fact that come the end of it, we will be doing a reverse grid draw for the final race of the day. And well, that is where we will see where it will be somewhere between P13 and P23 that gets inverted, and who will be taking that pole position for the final race of the day, because you have to earn it by being in the right spot at the right time. Well, for all that and more, the checkered flag comes out. It is time for race number 2, ladies and gentlemen, and here we go. So as the drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for what is our second race of the day. It is Dan Mould who carries on from where he left off in race number 1 with pole position for SO and NXTGEN Gold. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by your Pro-Am pole sitter from Goldwing Motorsport, Daniel Downing. Behind them, starting P3, will be Adam Delmont for SO and NXTGEN Gold, and he's in the comfortable company of William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Motorsport. And when I say he's in the comfortable company, what I do mean is that he's going to be under major pressure, no doubt about it. Mikey Doble starts P5 for Doble Sim Racing. Keep your eyes out for him, and also Jaroslaw Cebula, who starts P6 for NXTGEN Pink. These two are the top 2 in the overall Drivers' Championship, and whilst it's early days, they're both looking very eager to take points off of each other and also take prizes at the front of the field. Behind the Polishman is the Englishman Jamie Dorey, teammate to Cebula for NXTGEN Pink, and he's ahead of his own teammate Benjamin McCluskey, completing the full row of the grid, with Tom Davidson starting P9 for the Sim Racing Collective, and then Gavin Garner completes the top 10 with that silent but proud rise up through the ranks from P15 in race number 1 for NXTGEN Pink. Stuart Winans starts P11 for Track Scotland, and well, given the fact that he fished just outside the top 10, in this one he'll be hoping to go for an overall top 10 and also potentially go one further step on the Pro-Am podium, if not 2. And then we've got Wayne Douglas starting P12 for Douglas Motorsport. Behind them on row 7, Lee Horn starts P13 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing with Ben Altria in his company for Full Tilt Motorsport. Nick Clements is P15 for iRacing Esports and Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing, who'll be hoping he's got those technical issues with his internet connection resolved between races 1 and 2, and therefore he can get his head down and focus on the racing. Sam Smith starts P17 for iRacing Esports ahead of Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport. And then we have Lewis Delmont, P19 for SL NXTGEN Gold, who in the end managed to hold off Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, but I suspect the youngest member of the Doble Sim Racing outfit will be hoping to come back at him into turn 1. Outside the top 20, P21, it's Russell Fowler for Verano Esports ahead of Kevin Smith, your AM pole sitter after that win in race number 1. He'll be doing it again, or aiming to at least, for Verano Academy from P22. On the 12th row of the grid behind him, it's James Mazescal for Aztec Racing and Verano Esports is Matt Emmons. And then we do have on the 13th row of the grid, Jake Pitt for Aztec Racing and Gabriel Yilmaz, his teammate. Starting P27, Marcel Fritsch for Verano Academy ahead of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports. And your top 30 is completed by Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing and Andrew Pine for the Sim Racing Collective was telling me going into tonight that he's been really happy with how things have gone for the first 2 rounds of the season, but I get the feeling that the trend of that good set of results may have been bucked somewhat by race number 1, but keep your eyes out for the 57 driver. If there's anything you can count on, is that he will be coming through the field very quickly once we do get racing in this one. Mark Sykes starts P31 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing ahead of Eduardo Gonzaga for National Racing Team, with Gabriel Papaconstantou behind for Aztec Racing and Andy Fox lines up P34 for Goldwyn Motorsport. On the 18th row of the grid, it's Andy Chell for Courtmaster Motorsport, behind the other Andy with Sammy Arriba, his teammate, P36. And then we do have on the 19th row of the grid, Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport, be hoping for plenty more in what is the second race of the day, head of Jonathan Berry for Quartermaster Motorsport. Now it'll be Kieran Smart for Track Scotland and Josh Brown for National Racing Team who complete your top 40. We'll then have P41, Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of Sean Doby for 88 Tech Racing. Duncan Ray starts P43 for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of Craig Tillison, whose race was turned sideways out of turn 6 with the contact with Sammy Arriba in race 1 for Verano Academy. And it's Jonathan Collins, P45 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing ahead of Reswap for JWM Motorsport, with Dylan Hunter starting last but not least P47 for DH Racing. So that is your grid, ladies and gentlemen. We do have what is the best part of 47 drivers here once again, and they're all eager to go racing. But as we get the rear review here, well, that's Dan Mould, who'll be looking down towards turn number 1. It is a long run, but one that he'll feel comfortable in, and can he run away all the way to victory or not? Well, only time will tell, as we're about to put the lights on for the second time today, and will Daniel Downing versus Dan Mould this time. It's the battle of the 2 Dans, but as the lights go on, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's firing lights, and out they go as Dan Mould looks to get underway. But look at this, and Daniel Downing on the left of your picture. Downing gets the better launch in the Honda. The Veloster struggles to the grass. Meanwhile goes James Mazescal, a brief rally cross line, and as they come on down, you can see Guthrie and Delmont side by side. Mikey Doble tucks in behind, doesn't want to make it 3 wide, and as they come on through what is the opening chicane hairpin, well, as they roll their way on through, all the drivers here trying to tease and nudge each other. All a bit of contact there, turn 1 the iRacing Esports car sideways, albeit able to survive it, and we've got a car turn sideways completely. That's Duncan Rise, who then gets pointed back in the right direction after being dislodged from the car of Josh Brown. But they've all made it for the opening couple of corners. I have there Sean Doby there, takes 1, 2, 3, and the 88 Tech Racing driver sneaks up the inside of everybody there, and well, a bit of an opportunist, but gets it done. It's meanwhile Daniel Downing is into the lead of this race, around the outside, down into the hairpin versus Mould, and well, in the end, Mould comes back at him, and William Guthrie in the middle decides he doesn't want to be in the Moses manoeuvre. He gets reverse Moses instead, and well, as they roar the way from turn 7 up towards turn 8, I can tell you right now, in the race director's booth, they're going to be grinning, because every time they hear me talk about the Moses manoeuvre, it's almost as if it's become a bit of a smiling drinking game. But as our drivers roar their way through turn number 8, Dan Mould right now trying to hold on to that lead with Downing and Guthrie behind, and Adam Delmont in P4 has lost 1 place with Mikey Doble close behind. Jaroslaw Cebula and Jamie Dory side by side as they roar the way up the rise, and what you can see here, Dory right now trying to get ahead of Cebula. They're fighting despite being 2 teammates, and neither one here wanting to back out the other, and I think both very eager to make some progress. But as they head on down towards what is turn number 14, or should I say up towards it, meanwhile further back Kevin Smith, your AM leader, he started as AM pole sitter and he's carried on his journey as AM pole sitter immediately as he roars his way in towards turn number 14. He's in P21, so he's gained 1 place since the start and not losing out anymore. Meanwhile, looking to Adam Delmont here on the inside And Mikey Doble trying to hold on to P4. Doble's going to go around the outside, but it's not easy to do it around the outside here, given the way the circuit goes off camber beyond that initial rise into the corner. And Adam Delman runs out very wide. That's going to cost him a lot of time as he rejoins, and as they roar the way across the timeline, it's Mould ahead of Downing, followed by Guthrie. Then you've got Adam Delman ahead of Mikey Doble, then Cebula P6, Dory P7. Albeit I say that, hold the phone, as Mikey Doble looks up the inside here of Adam Delman into turn 1, and the Audi driver gets it stopped on a dime, and Cebula says, well, can I play too? And he can't find it there as they make the way on out. But the 4 next-gen pink cars all together now. Cebula ahead of Dory, followed by McCluskey, and then Gardner. That's through to P9. Albeit Dory and what is Cebula there continue to fight, and Lee Horn is P10. Behind them, Tom Davidson, the second place prime driver, is P11 currently. As we've also got there Matthew Sheraton, who seems to have got his internet connection stabilised, and in good time as well, because that means we're going to get some brilliant battling here between Sheraton and old rival Ben Altria. Albeit I think that rivalry's never truly gone away. As meanwhile, Ben Gregory looks to switch to the inside, trying to put some pressure on the 390 Aztec Racing and Nitra, but in the end that pressure doesn't amount to anything as they come out of the hairpin for the second time of asking. But on the rise they go, and meanwhile, whilst all this is happening, we look back to the AM class, and Gabriel Yilmaz and Marcel Fritsch are still fighting each other, second place in the AM class, with the gap between the two of them almost up to a second, as that's going to be Michael Lees, who launches out the inside of Fritsch into turn 7, takes a bit too much, turn 8 I should say, takes a bit too much apex curve, but Fritsch gives him the space to calm the car down, and Kieran Smart says, well, don't mind if I do, and Kieran Smart is already up to P27 from a P39 start. Good going on the track. Scotland driver, he's made a lot of progress, and Reece Watt as well, 16 places gained. He's made his way all the way up into P30 already, and he's not flinching or holding any punches back as he looks to do battle with Mark Sykes. Well, we ride on board here, looking over the nose of the number 32 from JWM Motorsport, and as he comes out to turn number 13 in towards 14, tucked in behind there, and well, it's going to be a nasty contest around the outside. Suddenly appears Isaac Doble, so he saw what was going to happen and takes the place, and what won't be too pleased there as a fellow Audi driver has been able to outfox him through the hairpin as they come down through turn number 15. We'll be hoping that Isaac can now disrupt Mark Sykes' race and potentially put Watt right back into the battle with Sykes. But then again, it's one thing to dream, it's another thing in practice when they try to make it happen as they come out of the final corner and onto lap number 3. But whilst all this is playing out, we have to look back up to the front of the field, as that's Mikey Doble on the inside there. William Guthrie trying to hold on to P3 here for the Full Tilt Motorsport driver, but I think Guthrie's got other ideas. He looks around the outside, a bit of contact between the two of them, elbows come out there, and Guthrie's arguing that he's got space and he's entitled to be on the racing circuit, but both drivers are absolutely going all in, and in the end Guthrie makes it stick and moves into P3, getting ahead of Mikey Doble. And for all the progress that Mikey Doble has made, well, that progress is slightly reset, albeit I say that he's going to look for it on the inside here. The Audi's not known for its brakes, but I think Doble's going to try and change the trend here. There's a bit of rubbing between the two of them. And right now, both of these drivers absolutely giving each other as good as they're getting off the other. It's fantastic. Adam Delman and Jamie Dory behind. And right now, you're seeing multi-time champions have to carve their way between drivers who would love to be a one-time champion in the NXTCC. And, well, I can tell you that Adam Delman, if it hadn't gone the wrong way in Season 7, he would have been a lot closer in that title fight. But the SO NXTGEN Gold driver right now, still knowing there's a long way to go in this one. And he still fancies his chances, no doubt about it, as they head in towards turns 11 and 12. But it's looking very close, very tasty here as everyone settles down once again for a brief moment, but that's the calm before the proverbial storm. Meanwhile, further back, Craig Tillerson being passed from P34 by Alan McCain, and Tillerson here struggling, as meanwhile we had an instant, I think, for Michael Lees, as that's a lot of gravel that's just been suddenly run out onto the circuit. Well behind, that's be Samson cut the inside of Sean Dobie into turn number 10. That's not a conventional overtaking move, but to be fair, Smith makes it count as Dobie there on the inside as his nose shut off slightly, and Smith uses greater experience of the Elantra's capabilities to know exactly how far he can push the wig and gets the job done there. And with the prime driver definitely gambling, but in the end a successful gamble, no doubt about it. Coming up towards turn at number 15, he'll put the pressure on Tillerson now, and Sean Dobie would love to have Smith bring him into that fight, as it will be Tillerson versus Dobie for what will be place-wise in the AM Class P6, and some big points up for grabs for both drivers. And then we come back up the running order, and while we look to Gabriel Yilmaz, your second place AM driver here, and well, Marcel Fritsch has fallen away down, but I believe he's been passed by multiple pros and primes, including Reece Watt, Isaac Doble and Eduardo Gonzaga. And well, here comes Reece Watt looking up the inside, absolutely fuming after that contact between himself and Ben Gregory in race number 1, and what I can tell you has calmed down since then, but right now his tempo has not calmed down in terms of how fast he wants to race. But up the road, in terms of Brian drivers, here's Tom Davidson, who's trying to keep Stuart Winus behind him as they come out of turn number 5, and Winus has closed up, and meanwhile, is that Nick Clibbins? Right, that's Clibbins! Clibbins is all over the back of Winus here, and Clibbins has made a lot of progress in this race. 2 places gained overall, and multiple places gained in the Pro-Am class as well, and Clibbins here is absolutely flying as we ride on board with the iRacing Esports 13, and as they come down in towards turn number 8, we ride on board with the Audi Sport Customer Racing car, and well, tapping on the rear of Winus, the Elantra right now, giving it everything it's got, but this Audi of Clemens is definitely not holding back any punches here as they make the way in towards turn number 11 once again, but they've got to go via turn 10, and you can see here in that uphill run, the Audi just not having the grunt that it would like. That Elantra looking a bit more comfortable over the course of this middle section of the lap. The Audi will be the stronger car coming out of the final corner onto that start-finish straight. We've seen that time and time again where the Audi is an absolute rocket on the straights, but in the corners, particularly the low-speed corners, it starts to have one of the biggest problems that the Audi can face, which is it's geared very tightly up until what is 4th gear, and then in 5th and 6th, the gears go on for an eternity, and that's what gives it its top-end speed. But the problem is, which gear do you select when you're going for these tighter corners, and when you've got to go for the higher gears, whereas many of the cars here would perhaps be taking the hairpins in 1st or 2nd. Add 1 to that, and that's what the Audi will be in by comparison as it tries to manage the wheel spin on the front tyres and get the power down. But a good run there out to turn 16, and here comes Clibbins then, 2 attempts to cross the timeline. He'll be thinking about the potential move as he makes his way on through. Winus holds the outside here. Clibbins will be thinking, does he go all in on the brakes? No, he doesn't, as up the road, that is going to be Horn looking around the outside of Gardner from P9, and well, Horn's not able to make that move come away just yet, as meanwhile further back as Kevin Smith being swamped by what is the cars of not James Smagscale, I was going to say that's Andrew Pike going one side and Lewis Delmont the other, and well, in the end, Smith doesn't need to fight these drivers, given the fact that he's an AM driver and being passed by primes and pros. But the thing in his mind would be, as I stumble over my plosive literature, in the plosive alliteration I should say, is the fact that Smith right now wants to try and keep on as many overall places as possible, because he would love to be in that reverse grid draw, and he'd love to stop towards the front of the field and make it 3 wins out of 3 in the AM class day, and potentially some overall points to his name as well, which they rarely come to an AM driver, but when they do, they are like gold dust, it must be said. But as we come from Kevin Smith to a little bit further back, this is Jake Pitt holding off Gabriel Yilmaz, the Aztec Racing pair. They've swapped places recently and now running together here as they come out of what is turn at number 6. I think Pitt's missing a good chunk of the rear bumper and the rear boot panel there, and well, it does look very damaged. In fact, that's Yilmaz's car that's got the damage, my apologies, and up the inside and goes Isaac Doble. And Yilmaz here looking to try and get the car stopped. That's going to be Gonzaga who gets bunched up there with Sam Van Oels hot on his heels. They make their way through and Yilmaz runs out to the gravel, and will Gonzaga will be absolutely frustrated as the Goldwyn Motorsport pair of Van Oels and Moraes are right behind him now as they come up the rise and in towards the next set of corners. But look at that from Gonzaga, all in on the brakes. Car slides loose, he gets it stopped in time. He makes the move there on Yilmaz, and Van Oels and Moraes come on through. 3 wide as they come down through turn number 13, up towards 14 they go. Gonzaga right now pinning the car to what is the hairpin, and we're under huge pressure as we look back from the National Racing Team machine, the number 92 being piloted by the Brazilian, doing everything he can, but looking up the inside, that's going to be Van Oels. Van Oels gets the door open as they come through 15, and that's going to force Gonzaga wide, and as they come out of that corner in towards turn 16, well, this is getting very testy between the 2 drivers, and here comes Duncan Rose who says, can I play as well, as they come on around, and well, you've got to give credit, these guys are getting their elbows out, but they're enjoying the race. It's getting very spicy. We'll keep it clean, lads. We don't want to see it in the wall as they come across the timeline to go into the second half of this race and rolling the way on down. With Van Oels and Moraes are going to work together as teammates here to drag their way past Gonzaga, who holds the outside. Oh my goodness! And they take each other out of the race. Van Oels and Moraes both into the barrier. Now, was that due to the downhill compression and then both tapping each other? Well, I'm not quite sure. What I can tell you is that both of the Goldwyn Motorsport cars fall by the wayside, and there's Waldo Gonzaga. His race is not done yet. Meanwhile, that's Collins up the inside of him, and now Brown tries to get on through as well, but Brown being blocked by his teammate, and that's the last thing you want to do. Well, there's a missing front bumper for Collins. I don't know where that's deposited itself on the circuit, but Collins is in feature of the AM class now in all of this, and Josh Brown and Marcel Fritsch are side by side as they come down to the braking zone. There's going to be Brown in the middle of the road, Fritsch up the inside here, Gonzaga's there as well. Gonzaga gives the space, and as they come out, Marcel Fritsch goes 2 places for the price of 1. It's absolutely incredible. Marcel Fritsch capitalising on the chaos between the National Racing Team teammates and the Austrian driver there. Now that is a very professional move, there's no doubt about it. And the number 28 driver, oh my good lord, I am speechless, because that is something you don't ever dream to dare to do. And Marcel Fritsch will now chase after Jonathan Collins in P3 of the AM class. But as they head up towards turn number 11 and 12, well, they'll just give me a brief moment to catch my breath, hopefully, as Brown now is under pressure to try and find his way past Alan McCain before we do see Gonzaga being passed potentially by Gabriel Yilmaz as they come on down. With all this battling outside the top 10 in the AM class, we makes you forget the fact we've got some race leaders to look at. And here are your race leaders as they head across the timeline to lap number 7, making the way on down towards turn number 1. And Dan Mould right now, well, he's going to be just simply trying to break away, albeit he's got a lot of ballast in the car. Daniel Downing, meanwhile, experimenting with how wide he can go on entry into turn 1 before he picks up a track limits penalty. And as they come through the chicane, all these drivers snake training the way on through, and Mikey Doble is looking to try and make an opportunity to take P2. And we'll keep in mind he's ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula currently, and Cebula is down in P8. Cebula's really struggled with this race by comparison. The pace hasn't been there compared to race number 1, and now for Doble it's a golden opportunity to really level the playing field in the championship points going into race number 3 of the day. We're coming down to the braking zone here for turn number 6. Nobody really able to see an opportunity, albeit we look into the rear of the picture and you'll see Ben Altria all over the back of Nick Klibbins. He'll want to try and find a bit more than that. And then we do have Lewis Delmont versus Andrew Pike, and well, it's going to be the younger member of the Delmont family squaring off against a good old rival of Adam Delmont, and Pike up the inside there takes P18 off of Lewis Delmont into the hairpin. And I think Lewis deciding, you know what, it's not worth it right now because I need to focus on prime positions. He's P7 in class, and Andrew Pike could pull up to Ben Gregory, who's only 8 attempts up the road, and they could make the way even further up this running order. As the old saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and they'll want to work together for the mutual cause of gaining places. As we do see Andrew Pike there taking a bit of a deviation to the gravel, and well, in the end getting the car settled down just in time. Meanwhile, further back, a driver had a bit of a dismal start to this race, it must be said. Dylan Hunter, he ended up in a nasty shut to the start. He's at P41. He's chasing after Gabriel Yilmaz right now, trying to gain some more overall places. And Hunter definitely, it would seem, as the saying goes, having a bit of a baptism by fire with regards to his debut in the NXTCC. But I'm sure he's still got the smile on his face, much like his profile picture, enjoying it, getting himself established in this running order. And remember, provisionally assigned to the Prime class as he is a new driver, but we could see him shifted to AM, we could see him shifted to any class after this round, but all new debutants are typically assigned to the Prime class, and then they might be revised over the course of the season within 1 or 2 rounds. But still, it's good to see Hunter back out there despite the difficulties he's had, and the DH Racing driver going on strong, no doubt about it, so therefore he's going to fight for every place he can. But coming back into the top 15, this is Wyness versus Klibbins, and we've been building up to this for some time. Klibbins on the inside of Wyness into turn 1, through the right, into the left, and Wyness right now does not make this easy for Klibbins, but Altria says, well, can you get a move on, guys? I don't need you fighting this much. And well, Klibbins in the end gets ahead of Stuart Wyness, but it was great respect shown between the two of them, and I don't think it's over yet as they come through 4 into 5, and Klibbins right now is struggling with traction coming out of these low speed corners in that Audi, and Wyness in return. We ride on board here with the 61 driver, and where he's looking for an opportunity to take a dive on the brakes, this is going to be it, as off in the distance Mikey Doble and Daniel Downing are side by side, X'd in the hairpin, and Wyness is not able to quite make the move there. Meanwhile, Downing, he's still side by side here, coming over the rise into what is turn number 8, but compared to Mikey Doble making the move at turn number 6, this is Downing battling with Delmont, and Daniel Downing having to contest with what is, excuse me, none other than the challenge of the success ballast as he makes his way in towards turn number 10 and 11, and Downing now with an elbow down the order, and I think with William Guthrie getting on through, Downing might be starting to hit the cliff of the tyre life in that Honda Civic Type R, given the fact he's had 48 kilograms of success ballast in this race, and he's had to adjust to it, and that adjustment now really started to kick in as the Goldwing Motorsport driver finds himself under pressure. Jamie Dory looks around the outside, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's perhaps overheated the tyres on that Honda, and therefore he's got to try and cool them down as they come down in towards turn number 15, but we've still got some more laps to go. And right now, meanwhile, at the front of the field, well, here's a new story for you, and that is Mikey Doble after passing Daniel Downing at turn 6. Well, right now he's all over the back of Dan Mould with what is 3 3 laps to go as they come towards the timeline. So Mould right now under huge pressure, and it's been some time since we've seen the 88 on top form, but right now Mikey Doble looking for the move here as they come across onto lap number 9. Ruin his way on down here. The Audi have the straight line speed, but Mould's not going to back off easily as they head onto the brakes. Too wide, they go into the braking zone for turn number 1, and around the outside looks Doble to go to the inside of 2, and meanwhile it's going to be Mould on the outside to inside of 3. Neither driver's giving up here, and you can see how much pace they're taking out of each other as everybody else queues up behind them. More contact between them, trading the paint. Adam Delman tucks it behind, and right now Dan Mould is making that Veloster as wide as possible as he tries to park the bus. Well, the bus isn't wide enough for Mikey Doble to be stopped as he goes on the inside of turn number 4. Down towards 5 they go, side by side towards the next braking zone, and we saw him make the move only moments ago in a distant camera view for what was P2 in this corner, and now he goes to the lead at the same corner. Can he get it on exit? That Audi's got a lot of traction, and Mikey Doble gets to know his air, but the Veloster comes back strong now as they head into the kick of 7, and towards 8 they go, and if you're Dan Mould at this point, you've got to throw everything at this corner, but I don't think he's going to be able to, and Mikey Doble takes the lead of this race on lap number 9 of 11, as all the drivers now concertina their way on through after that brilliant bound, a great piece of action between Doble and Mould, and we'll have to wait to see whether Mikey Doble was able to break away as Mould will look to chase after him, and Adam Delman's only gets hit from the back of him. But as they head up towards turns 11 and 12, McCluskey right now, one of the leading next-gen pink drivers. Jamie Dorr is the leader of the 4 inside this top 10. Well, they're all squaring off against the sister team machine from next-gen Orange Whisker Gunners Racing, the Lee Horn, who right now is absolutely being afforded their side as he goes defensive versus Gardner, offensive versus Cebula in a single master stroke, and Horn right now trying to find the right place to take them both on at the same time. Well, that's daring and brave from Horn, but to be fair, he does have his surprises and plenty of aces up his sleeve, I can tell you that. Whilst all that's happening, meanwhile, coming into that set of corners is Michael Lees versus James Smansesgow. And Lees in P9 in the prime class wants to make it a P8. Smansesgow drags the car to the inside of turn 15. And well, Lees is being made to look all the way round. Cuts back here, and Smansesgow simply says to him, well, we're going to go through this corner at my pace. And in the end, that's exactly how they stay as they head in towards turn number 16. Behind them is Reese Watt, who, keeping in mind, started all the way from P46. He's up into P23. So what is inside the eligible reverse grid positions? So right now JW and Motorsport are making grounds, both Lease and Watt gaining the best part of over 15 places apiece for them, and here comes Lease looking up the inside of Smansesgow down towards the brakies over P8 in the prime class. He goes all in the brakes, and Smansesgow I think doesn't have a response here, and Lease gets it stopped in time, and that Elantra looking to be absolutely on pinpoint form. Meanwhile behind, and Jonathan Collins, your second place AM driver, battling there with Alan McCann, who gets the door open into turn 1, and on his inside also follows Marcel Fritsch, but Collins there decides to leap his way over the sausage curb. You've got to be careful, that can damage the suspension rods, and as they come in towards turn number 4, here comes Marcel Fritsch, he dives the inside, and whilst he was the miracle maker only a few laps ago, well, that will definitely be a move I think Collins won't be too happy about, albeit Fritsch has made it count. Sometimes you've got to be daring in order to make the dreams come alive. But you see Collins there flash his lights immediately. He's not happy with that, but I think Fritsch is going to defend it as hard as he possibly can here down to turn 6, and we've got a rivalry in the AM class most certainly as they come through. Marcel Fritsch confirms the position against the wounded Jonathan Collins as they head up towards turn number 7, but from then we now look back up towards the front of the field, and Dan Mould in P2 has got the pressure now of not being able to chase after Mikey Doble, but being chased relentlessly here by 2 cars, Adam Delman and also William Guthrie, and it's a run deep at turn number 14 for Mould. He'll get the inside here in towards turn 15, but the problem is that Delman now will look round the outside, and if he can commit this move all the way round, well, the Veloster will have the speed on the straight, but Mould is going to be on a very tight line here into turn 16. We haven't seen anybody go too wide yet into the vital corner, but now they will. And as they come on around, well, now it's going to be Mould who in the end falls back as it's Delman who gets the better exit as the white flag waves, and it means we're on to lap 11.11 in race number 2 of the day as they power their way down towards turn number 1, and it's a brilliant run from what is Dan Mould, even if he finishes P3, but Delman right now is going to be put under pressure on Mould, and Mould goes all the way in to the inside, but then Delman will have the inside of turn number 2 as he hops his way over the sausage curve in towards turn 3, and as the 2 drivers exit side by side, William Guthrie here just watches and waits to pounce on both of them, but I think they're just going to keep taking every 10th out of each other from corner to corner as the side by side coming out 4 in towards 5, and it is Adam Delman who gets ahead for P2 as they come down towards turn number 6, and the wide road racing surface of Portimão absolutely delivering here as they enter the braking zone. Mold's not done yet. He wants that place back. He's insisted if he can't win, he'll finish the next best place, which is P2. Delman gives it the space, but as they come up towards turn 7, it's a fair but fair rivalry, and we ride on board with a fourth place driver, William Guthrie, who's watching this right now. Windscreen wiper on to get the debris off the windshield. Mold around the outside there at turn 8, but Delman is still there. Delman is like a bad rash that you can't scratch off, and as they come out to turn number 9, well, right now Delman has the poor run, and here comes Guthrie. Guthrie looks up the inside into turn number 10. He'll put him on the outside into 11 as Mold right now absolutely parks the proverbial bus for everybody to go behind, and as they head in towards turns 11 and 12, I'll have to ask whether Mold's a Chelsea fan after this one, given in the Mourinho era it was all about parking the bus, some would say, but coming from football to a man right now who's looking to soccer it to them, and it is Dan Mold who's holding on to P2 for as long as possible as they all queue up behind. And Mold right now, well, I can tell you in all this fight he's enabled Doble to gain what is 2.5 seconds away from this pack, as Daniel Downing is back up the inside there of what is Spencer McCluskey as they come on down through turn 15 in towards 16. But whilst all this is playing out, we have to look to the very front, the very tip of the spear, because the checker flag begins to wave, and waiting him is Mikey Doble, Doble Sim Race's 88 driver, who takes victory in race number 2 of the day. Adam Delman out drags Dan Mold to line for P2, and then it will be William Guthrie P4 ahead of prime winner, back-to-back prime wins for Daniel Downing for Golden Motorsport. Benjamin McCluskey, Jamie Dory, Lee Horn, Jaroslaw Cebula and Nick Clements complete your top 10, with Clements runner-up in the prime class. And meanwhile, to make it back-to-back and wins P20 overall is Verona Academy's Kevin Smith in the 94, who holds off Michael Lees and Reese Watts line. Meanwhile, it will be a 1-2 for Verona Academy, because Marcel Fridge, after battling his way past Jonathan Collins, takes the runner-up AM spot P28 overall ahead of Collins, and then it will be Sam Smith and Josh Brown who misses out on the podium in the AM class, but he'll take P4 in the AM class ahead of Craig Tillerson, who completes the AM top 5 in a happier race for his second race of the day. Just behind him, Jonathan Berry improves to P6 in the AM class, and that P7 finish in race 1, and Lewis Mason just behind there. And then we will see Andy Fox P37 ahead of Andy Chell, and then shortly we will have Sean Doby come on through for another top 10 AM finish. This time it's P9, gaining a couple of places, and Doby won't be too upset about that one. No, there's more on the table in the final race of the day. We've still got a bit of time before Gabriel Yilmaz comes to line. Excuse me, as Gabriel Yilmaz comes to line now. And P40 for Aztec Racing, and then we will see making its way out of the final quarter and looking to hold off Kieran Smart to the end by a second, Dylan Hunter, who will make his way across that line, and will what a race, ladies and gentlemen, as they finish on that lead lap pack. We've still got Gabriel Papaconstantinou to make his way to that checkered flag, but before we do look back up the order to your race winner Mikey Doble, and will what a drive from the Doble Sim Racing driver, our 3-time NXTCC champion, absolutely digging in as hard as possible in order to take the lead and then never look back. And in the end, when Doble got on through, it was for Dan Mold to stop the rotter places, as Doble demonstrates that you could drift that Audi RS3 into the pit lane. He's putting on the show for the spectators here, ladies and gentlemen. He's happy. And Adam Delbert in the end found his way past Mold right at the checkered flag. And, well, as they all make their way down the pit lane, I think there's a bit of argy-bargy between the drivers here, and Mold round off that podium. Daniel Downing getting the pro treatment there for back-to-back prime wins and back-to-back overall top 5s. What a race. And, well, Kevin Smith, meanwhile, as he comes towards the end of his cool-down lap, the Verona Academy driver is going to be absolutely pleased. I think the grin on his face, I can tell you one thing, he's got an absolutely huge smile by default, but I think that smile right now is going to be multiplied by a factor of 10 to make it back-to-back AM wins. And this is the story that Kevin Smith wanted to tell at the start of the season, that he would be chasing those AM wins, and Portimão is delivering for him. But as all drives make the way into the pit lane, and Lewis Mason comes on down for the 991 for Aztec Racing. Wasn't the race he wanted in race number 2, and in fact missing the pit lane entry there, so I think they're going to tow the car to the pit lane. And Andy Chell there coming on through as well for Portimão Motorsport, and what has been a back and forth race, no doubt about it. Well, let's take a moment to take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after an incredible race number 2 that saw the action from race number 1 absolutely anteed up to maximum in round 3 of season 8 of the NXTCC, Mikey Doble took victory for Doble Sim Racing by 4.1 seconds over Adam Delmont. The SO NXTGEN Gold driver holding off his teammate at the end, find his way through, and Adam Delmont and Dan Mould rounded off the podium there. It's a double podium for SO NXTGEN Gold, but I think both of them wanted the spoils just as much as the other. William Guthrie, P4 there for Full Tilt V Motorsport, back-to-back P4 finishes, and he won't want to keep doing that. He'll want a podium eventually, otherwise he will be known as the bridesmaid, but never the bride, ahead of Daniel Downing for Goldwyn Motorsport, your pro and winner back-to-back prime win to the number 17. Benjamin McCuskey, P6 for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of teammate Jamie Dory, with NXTGEN Orange Whiskey runners Lee Horn disrupting the NXTGEN Pink flow there. It's taken what was a deserved P8 ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula, and then Nick Clemens, P10, runner-up in the prime class, ahead of Gavin Gardner, who tactically, it would seem, by finishing P11 takes no success ballast into our final race of the day, but as well as that, he will also guarantee a spot in that reverse grid. Stuart Winnis, P12 there, third place finish in the prime class, back-to-back runs inside the prime top 5 there for the Track Scotland driver in the 61, and also back-to-back prime podiums as well, with Tom Davison just missing out on the prime podium in this race for the Sim Racing Collective, but still a P4 in the prime class is nothing to scoff at. Venel Trier, P14 ahead of Matthew Sheraton, the Full Tilt V Motorsport driver under pressure, but the Aztec Racing driver not quite able to maximise that pressure there and taking the final overall points paying position. Andrew Pyatt, P16, keeping on, he finished P30 in race number 1. He moved his way rapidly up into the top 20, and he'll be pleased with that one, ahead of Douglas Motorsports' Wayne Douglas, within the top 20 being completed by Ben Gregory, Lewis Delmont, and your AM winner for Verano Academy, Kevin Smith. Michael Lees, P21 for JWM Motorsport, ahead of teammate Reese Watt in their drag race to the line. Both drivers starting from the back of the field and making great progress. And then James Massenskow takes the last of the eligible finishing positions for the reverse grid, P23 for Aztec Racing, with Matt Evans and Jake Pitt round off the top 25 ahead of Isaac Doble. Alan McCain, P27 ahead of Marcel Fritsch, who'll run up in the AM class there for Rhino Academy, making it a 1-2 for the Rhino Academy team. And he managed to just get ahead of Jonathan Collins in the end with that daring move into turn 6. The next Orange Whiskey Runners driver, not quite pleased about how the move was made. In fact, into turn 4, I should correct myself, but still, he'll be happy with that podium. Sam Smith completed your top 30 ahead of Josh Brown, with Eduardo Gonzaga finishing behind his teammate for National Racing Team. Sammy Ariba was P33 ahead of Craig Tillerson, with Jonathan Berry, Lewis Mason, Andy Fox, Andy Chell, and then Sean Doby and Gabriel Yilmaz completing your top 40. And Dylan Hunter was P41 ahead of Kieran Smart, with Gabriel Papaconstanto being your last lead lap finisher, P43, ahead of lap down finishers Russell Fowler and Sam Van Olst, and Duncan Rise and Mark Sykes will both be classified as race finishers as they did complete over half the race distance. So 47 starters, 47 finishers in the end, ladies and gentlemen, albeit we did see 43 of them finish on the lead lap, and that concludes race number 2 of 3 here in round 3 of the NXTCC Season 8 at Portimão. But of course, we have that big question of one more race to come, and well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we do now cut to the commentary booth, and we will conduct what is that reverse grid draw for the purposes of race number 3. As good evening to you all. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing so far. It's great to see so many of you tuning in despite our broadcast difficulties this evening. And again, we do apologise for that on the Facebook stream, but we're so happy to have you all tuned in via YouTube and also Twitch. Well, as always, we have our lottery bowl here, and in it are the numbers 6 through to 12, and we will shortly close our eyes, shuffle the balls, and draw 2 out of the bowl. We'll add the numbers together, and that's where we reverse the grid from for our final race of this evening. So without further ado, it's time for the draw. That's our first shuffle, and we draw our first ball out of the bowl, and we're hoping it's going to be a higher number today, given we've had a regular occurrence of low numbers so far, and it is the number 10, in fact, so it's one of our high numbers available, so this could be quite a sizable reverse grid, but what will be joining the number 10? Let's find out. And our second number of the day is going to be, well, it makes another appearance this season, the number 6. So it's our top 16 reverse grid. And, well, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, after coming from P30 to P16 in race 2, Andrew Pike will be on pole for the final race of this evening. And he'll be joined on the front row by Matthew Cheverton. So we're going to have a pro and a prime lock out the front row. 2 drivers who've had difficulties in race 1, but made it better in race 2. But can they make it magical in race number 3? Well, for all that and more, we will back shortly to find out, particularly after a word from our title sponsor for this season, and that is Doble Motorcycles. We will see you very shortly. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you will receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we return one final time, ladies and gentlemen, for race 3 of 3 in round number 3 of the NXTCC Season 8, powered by Doble Motorcycles, brought to you on iRacing. Here today at the Algarve International Circuit, also known as the Portimão Circuit. And as we all get set and ready to go racing for the final time today, well, one man who will be absolutely thanking his good graces and also his hard work, to be fair, will be Andrew Pine for the Sim Racing Collective, who has been rewarded with what has been an absolutely determined set of drives in races 1 and 2 that haven't quite gone his way from qualifying, with reverse grid pole for the purposes of race number 3 with that top 16 inversion. And it's funny enough to say that we so far this season have had what has been a reverse grid of the top 14, then the top 15, and then we've made it to the top 16. We seem to be gradually progressing how much we are reversing the grid, and well, we've never had that happen into the NXTCC as far as I can remember in all of our previous 7 seasons, where we had 3 consecutive positions where the inversion's been taken from week to week. And a bit of a magical season, I can tell you that. It's been a magical one for the fact the wet weather so far has mixed it up. Also, this gravel update today seems to be mixing things up as well. We couldn't ask for better. But I can tell you one thing right now, as all the drivers get themselves set and ready to go one more time, well, he would not be looking for better than this. And Andrew Pike right now be getting himself all set and ready to go. Can we grab a quick word with him potentially before he goes racing? I don't think we can get the patch through to the car with Pike, unfortunately, as much as we would love to. So therefore, I think we are going to be denied the opportunity to get a pre-race interview with the number 57 driver. And well, we haven't quite caught any pre-race interviews or pre-round interviews our drivers in recent weeks, ladies and gentlemen, including this round today, but we'll definitely look to do so in round number 4 in a week's time. I think as well, everyone getting themselves settled down today. It was a lot of wet weather at Motorsport, and that's why we wanted to make sure our drivers had the time to get themselves acclimatised to a very tricky circuit as conditions. And today as well, a lot of drivers having to focus on making sure that their experience of Portimão has been all set up and ready to go for the iRacing update, and well, therefore we haven't been able to quite grab a word from our drivers, but we will from round 4 onwards. But as everyone gets themselves ready to go, well, for our final time today, we do the dance at Portimão, and well, we haven't got long to wait now. Could we see some magic happen for Kevin Smith as well? He's had 2 AM wins already today. Can he make it 3 out of 3 for Verano Academy? He'll be starting on pole for the AM class. He's certain of that. But the only thing that's certain is that a checkered flag will wave after 11 laps, but who'll be the one to take it in each of our classes? Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to head to the grid. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our final race of the day. Andrew Pike takes the top 16 reverse grid pole position for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing. Sheraton's had his best results of the season so far this round, so therefore he'll be hoping to go even higher today. Outside of the top 2, Ben Altrier starts P3 for Full Tilt Motorsport behind the Pro-Am pole sitter. And indeed, line up directly behind his Pro-Am leader will be second place Pro-Am driver Tom Davidson, the Sim Racing Collective driver, and this could be a huge result for the TSRC team if they are able to both finish inside the top 5. Stuart Wynett starts P5 for Track Scotland. He is the company of none other than Gavin Garner, who starts P6 for NXTGEN Pink. Remember, he has no success ballast in the car due to finishing P11 in race 2, and that could have been a tactical manoeuvre to give himself the lightest car going into the final race of the day. Nick Clement starts P7 for iRacing Esports, ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula for NXTGEN Pink, and your top 10 is rounded off by Lee Horn for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing and Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink. Outside the top 10, we have Benjamin McCluskey, who is P11 for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Goldwyn Motorsports' Daniel Downing. Downing has made it 2 out of 3 Pro-Am wins so far, albeit success ballast really dragging him down in race 2 on the second half of the race. Will we see more of that in this race? We'll have to wait and find out. Because behind him will be William Guthrie for Full Tilt Motorsport, who starts P13, and Dan Mould, who starts P14 for SO and NXTGEN Gold. And then we will see completing that top 16 inversion on the 8th row of the grid, Adam Delmont for SO and NXTGEN Gold, and Doble Sim Races' Mikey Doble, who will be very eager to make it back-to-back wins if he can, or at least make it another top 10 finish and get his best points haul of the season come this round's end. Wayne Douglas starts P17 for Douglas Motorsport, ahead of Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport, and it's Lewis Delman for SO and NXTGEN Gold, and Kevin Smith for Verano Academy in the AM class, who is your AM pole sitter. A quick fact, by the way, regarding Ben Gregory, he's been the recipient of 2 reverse grid pole positions so far this season, but hasn't made it a 3rd in a row, so therefore he hasn't quite had the magic follow him alongside the P14, 15 and 16 flow we've had this season so far. But we continue on the magic there with a magical Michael Lees, who made his way to P21 in what was our second race of the day, and he'll be looking for a much more standard race for JWM Motorsport this time around. He's in the company on the 11th row of the grid with his teammate Reswap, with James Mazascal starting P23 for Aztec Racing ahead of Matt Emmons for Verano Motorsports. We'll then have on the 13th row of the grid Jake Pitt for Aztec Racing ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, with Alan McCain starting P27 for iRacing Esports ahead of Marcel Fritsch for Verano Academy. The AM driver is followed up by his main AM rival Jonathan Collins, who starts P29 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Honours Racing, and I do wonder whether we are going to see a bit of a lunge into turn 1 between these two after what happened at the end of race 2, and Sam Smith follows up behind to complete your top 30 for iRacing Esports. From then we have Josh Brown starting P31 for National Racing Team ahead of his teammate Eduardo Gonzaga, and no love lost between those two as they definitely traded a lot of paint in race number 2, ahead of Sammy Arriba for Quartermass Motorsport, and then Craig Tillison lines up P34 for Verano Academy. Jonathan Berry starts this race P35 for Quartermass Motorsport ahead of Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing, and then we do have on the 19th row of the grid Andy Fox for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of fellow Andy, that's Andy Chell for Quartermass Motorsport P38, with your top 40 being completed by ATEC Tech Racing Sean Doby and Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing. Dylan Hunter starts this one P41 for DH Racing ahead of Track Scotland Kieran Smart after that heartbreak once again hitting him in race number 2. And it's Gabriel Papaconstantou for Aztec Racing ahead of Russell Fowler for Verano Esports, with the final 4 row of the grid being Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsport and his teammate Duncan Rise after they had their coming together at the end of race 2. And Mark Sykes lines up P47 last but not least for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing, hoping for a better race 3. But the field is almost all in position, ladies and gentlemen. All our drivers are absolutely itching to go racing one final time today. We haven't got long before the lights go on, and the Sim Racing collective machine at the 57 of Andrew Pike will know that Honda can be quick off the line, but he's got the company of an absolutely lethal Elantra alongside, and Cheverton will be looking one eye forward, one eye backwards as all of our drivers get set. The lights are going on here, and without further ado, for the third time today, it's 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final time today as they roar the way away. And as they come down towards turn number 1, well, here you can see Pike right now getting the better launch compared to Cheverton. Ben Alltree close behind on Cheverton as they come down. Davison, meanwhile, opens up to the outside line as they all head into the opening corner. Underneath the blimp camera they go. The Goodyear blimp staying stationary. Meanwhile, a bit of a lunge up the inside there from one of the Verano Esports drivers, I believe. And, well, they've made it work there as that was Matt Emmons taking a quick look, and he's gained a couple of places. We have had a couple of shunts and nudges between drivers, but nothing too major, as meanwhile the leaders immediately settle down and Pike is breaking away. Further back, Jaroslaw Cebula on the attack. He looks to go around the outside of Stuart Wynis with Tom Davidson trying to follow, and Davidson having a slow start here, losing 3 places since the launch, and as they come down, well, now he's going to try and make amends as he looks to make it 3-1 into turn 6. This is going to be bold from Davidson, leveraging the brakes of that Honda. Cebula on the outside, well, he's just given the elbow out there and doesn't have anywhere to go as some cars go straight across the road. My goodness, and well, they've been able to stop the cars in time. That's Michael Lees and James Spadzersgal have been involved in some sort of altercation. They get themselves back together, but we're going to need to get a replay of what exactly has happened there, as our drivers meanwhile all negotiate what has been a bit of pandemonium. And meanwhile, a Hopper has given a jump to the side of the way. Douglas goes straight on, and there's contact there to what is Isaac Doble, who's sent into the gravel, and well, Jonathan Collins ends up hitting the side of Isaac Doble, had nowhere to go, and that puts him all the way down the order. Kevin Smith meanwhile in the AM class is still leading, but look at this behind. Jonathan Berry, with his dad watching right now, the Quartermass Motorsport drives attacking, but there's contact to the rear of Alan McCain's car. McCain goes sideways and Berry carries on. He can't stop right now as much as he would love to give the place back. As Smith and Tillison are right behind, but Jonathan Berry has gained a lot in the AM class, it must be said, and has moved his way all the way up into P22 overall, and he's right on the heels of Smith. Can he get this done? That will be the question, as we are Lewis Mason further behind. Right now, battling against the elements here, trying to fend off fellow Aztec Racing driver Gabriel Yilmaz behind, and coming down through turn number 15. Through the right-hander they go, and as they do, everyone now starts to get themselves into some semblance of an order, it would seem, albeit it's definitely been an absolutely crazy lap so far. And meanwhile, we do have what is a drive-through penalty for car 117 for a for what is not a drive-through penalty for a jump start, and that's Gabriel Papaconstantou, who immediately comes into the pits. The Cypriot driver knows what he's done, and he's in to get the penalty done before he goes on to another lap. So after one lap of racing, well, it's Andrew Pike who continues to lead ahead of Matthew Sheraton P2, Ben Alltree P3, Gavin Carter P4, Stuart Wine is P5, ahead of Tom Davison P6, Daniel Down in P7, William Guthrie P8, Dan Moll P9, and Jaroslaw Cebula completes your top 10 with Lee on behind P11. But as they make the way on this second lap, we've got more fighting to come as Matthew Sheraton, the leader of the Elantras here, has Wes Alltree up the inside, and will these two showing each other plenty of racing room and respect, and while they are old rivals from the Pro-Am class, albeit Alltree now has moved to the Pro class given his Season 7 championship crown. He can't go back, but Sheraton meanwhile still still chasing after that maiden title in the Prime class, and well, he was definitely one of the drivers in Season 6 who went all in for it. It didn't quite work out. Season 7 as well, he charged for it, but in the end it was the top 5 that was the target. But this season, he definitely feels like he could be the one to go for it should the results start to take an upward turn, as we say hello to Average Joe in the YouTube chat. But Sheraton comes out of 10 and in towards 11. He's got Gardner for company behind, and Tom Davidson is 3.5 seconds back. And Davidson really now acts as a bit of a plug for the rest of the field to follow on behind. And that's not to be a diminutive to the 42 driver or to besmirch his reputation. But right now, he's just not got the pace of the top 4, and it is showing here. But look at this. Ryan is battling with Downing. Downing on the outside here. And if anything, Davidson has really bunched this field up and got them all to fight each other. So right now, Tom Davidson is buying one is Andrew Pike at the front of the field. Plenty of breathing room from all the drivers who could prove a threat here as this race goes on. As we see Guthrie side by side with Mould, and well, the two Veloster drivers right now absolutely neck and neck as they make their way to turn 16. Rolling off the apex they go, and as they come on around, well, Mould's going to hold the outside line. Guthrie won't have as much of an overspeed here, and therefore now it's going to Cebula to pick the right horse to back as they come down towards turn number 1. Roaring their way in towards that braking zone. Well, Guthrie's still there. You'll notice he's not got the tail of the cars in front, and he's losing a tenth there in terms of top speed. He'll dive to the inside, and that's very late on the brakes from Guthrie, and in the end, a tap to the rear of what is Winess's car. Turns around, Guthrie immediately pulls wide, and what is Winess? Winess has turned sideways there as the car is ejected onto the gravel, and I think that is with everyone trying to push their way through was the traffic jam of an incident, and right now Winess is demoted all the way down to P19, and the Scotsman will not be too pleased for that. Meanwhile, Gavin Garner now looking to move up to P3, up the inside of Matthew Sheraton. I think Sheraton has got one thing on his mind, and that is don't lose the prime lead. He doesn't need to fight the top 3 as much as he would love to take and what is a top 3 overall. I think his mind is set on the fact I've had 2 very strong results today. Let's make it a perfect third and make it victory. But Tom Davidson is 2.2 seconds back, and he is closing quite quickly. Whilst all this is happening, meanwhile, further back, Craig Tillotson is having a bit of a scuffle with Josh Brown here, and well, the two Hyundai Elantra drivers right now moving at a certain velocity, but they're not in velocities as they head in towards turn number 8, and Tillotson looking up the inside of Brown to try and get the place back for P3 in what is the AM class, and he would love to make it a 1-2-3 for Verano Academy, albeit Marcel Fritsch down in P5 of the AM class would need to make some progress as well, but you never know. Verano Academy would be dreaming to lock out the podium with all 3 of their drivers in the AM class one day. They've done a 1-2 here today. Could they make it a 1-2-3 in race 3? Well, we'll have to wait and see. And that's not desired to be poetry there, as I can't seem to start the rhyme and keep things in time as they come out to turn at number 12 and down towards 13 they go. And Tillotson here losing out to McCain, and Brown is able to take a bit of a buffer here as they head up the hill in towards turn 14. Rolling the way up towards the final couple of quarters of this lap. We need to roll the replay footage back here and take a look back at what happened to Smagson's account and Lease on lap number 1, and here is the replay. So we looked at the blimp camera as they made the way down. Contact there, that sends Wayne Douglas sideways, and further contact, that sends to the wall what is the Verano Esports car and Matt Emmons, and Smagson's Scout and Lease in the end just end up getting caught up in all of that and have to stop the cars before it's too late, and they careen into the path of the rest of the field. But we take a look back at that from the on-board perspective of Michael Lease here. So there's the initial contact with Douglas, and he would argue Douglas came across him. That unsettles Lease. Car goes to the grass and has to stamp on the brakes as hard as he can. And well, for Michael Lease, I think there he had his heart in his mouth as to what could have happened, and that was very well managed from all drivers involved there to prevent that spilling into the exit of turn 6. But as we return to your live racing pictures, there have been some further incidents in all of this. We won't be able to get replays of those quite now, ladies and gentlemen, as we come back to live racing action. And you see Russell Fowler there looking from the inside to the outside of sister driver, the Verano Esports driver, around the outside of the Verano Academy driver Craig Tillotson, and moving up there into what will be P29, as Isaac Doble also comes through and covers off Craig Tillotson as rapidly as he possibly can. But as they head out to turn 6, meanwhile we need to take a little look back up the order, and well, in particular we're going to look to Josh Brown, who has in fact recently found his way past Jonathan Berry. Now how has that move happened? That is for P2 in the AM class, as Brown goes very deep under braking there into turn 8. Berry looks up the inside into 9 but can't quite find the door awaiting him, and well, as they come out the corner, Alan McCain says, well, if you two are going to fight like this, I might as well take the place off of both of you. But that is not going to be easy for McCain, as you can see Brown there with a little bit of a tap from the rear from what was Berry. Well, these two AM drivers right now absolutely getting their elbows out, and in the end Brown goes deep into turn 11. I think he wasn't aided in that adventure, I might be wrong. The camera angle doesn't make it clear, but it means that Jonathan Berry takes the place back, and Marcel Fritsch suddenly moves up into P3. He squeezed on through in the Verano Academy car, and he goes charging on the brakes and misses braking zone entirely and sends Russell Fowler absolutely spinning onto the runoff area. And, well, that is one way to make a place, but I don't think it's going to impress the stewards. And I think Fritz on reflection will recognise the fact that's not the way to do it. Craig Tillotson now catches up into all of this, but this is becoming a major problem in the fact that right now all these drivers are stumbling over each other outside of the top 20 and all get stuck in because Lewis Mason, Craig Tillotson, Gabriel Yilmaz, these are all AM drivers and they're all fighting for the final spots of the AM podium. But as they come down towards turn number 1, well, here goes Yilmaz looking at the move here. We ride on board with the Audi driver looking around the outside of teammate Mason, as well as going past Verona Academy's Tillotson, and Yilmaz up the inside, all in, and well, gets the move done there. Gabriel Yilmaz gets the 2-for-1 special into turn 1. Bold move, and well, sometimes you've got to be bold to make it count, and doing exactly that as he heads up towards what will be turn number 4. We need to take a look back at how exactly we saw Jonathan Berry and Josh Brown exchange places, and here's the quick replay before it all went wrong, ladies and gents. But in fact, can we get a replay of it? Yes, we can. And this was down into turn number 1, and originally Jonathan Berry went very deep there, having to negotiate what was the car, making its way up the inside of Andy Fox, and well, that explains how we had Josh Brown make his way past before it all unfolded the other way later on that, which we did see on the live racing pictures. But meanwhile, we come back to the live action now, and as we do, will mean, well, we need to look to P2, as this is Ben Altria, who right now is holding on as they head up towards what will be, for this time of asking, the 5th time of asking I should say, turn number 14, and Ben Altria right now keeping Gavin Gardner at bay with none other than Matthew Cheverton just watching from the rear. Now the thing for Cheverton at this point, he's been playing it smart all the way through this one, but I think now the tactical approach is now going to start to come back to haunt him slightly, because Tom Davison has closed up to 8 tenths behind. Now when I say that, we should also keep in mind, if you've got to name one driver in this Pro-Am class who knows just how wide his car is and how he can make it 3 or 4 times wider and isn't afraid to lose some of the paintwork of the car, it's Matthew Sheraton. He is a very strong defensive driver, does everything he can to keep it there fair means, but in the NXTCC, sometimes drivers are going to get called to the stewards room, even if they are the golden gooses of the grid, and Matthew Sheraton right now will be looking at his rearview mirror, seeing Davidson is approaching and thinking, right, you know what, I think we're going to have to get my elbows out here. Meanwhile, speaking of elbows out, Cebula trying to put the pressure on Dan Mould as they come up through the opening chicane, albeit these three, because Lee Horn's right on the rear here. He's glued to the back of Cebula, and Lee Horn, funny enough, in dry conditions, enjoying one of his strongest shines we've seen in the last 3 seasons of the NXTCC since he's moved to a pro class. And as he heads up towards what will be turn number 5, well, right now I can tell you that Horn is absolutely pounding and hustling after Cebula, and would love the place off him, plus Mould. But as they come down to the braking zone, he's going to think about it, but a little bit squirrely under braking down. I think a bit of indecision from Horn in terms of whether to go for it or not, led to him slightly losing the rear of the car, and will right now get it back together. But coming up the hill, there's still more to go. As meanwhile, we've got Jamie Dory going slowly, coming out of turn number 6. What on earth has happened there? I believe Ben Gregory may have been involved in an association with this incident, but here's the replay to explain. And this is coming down to the braking zone. That's Ben Gregory in front, under braking, Winus behind. Now, does Dory come a bit late on the brakes? Yes, he... Well, now that's an interesting one there. Did Gregory turn in on Dory, or did Dory go a bit too late on the brakes? Well, answers there for you guys and girls tuning in. What you think about that one? Indeed, we'll only get the one camera angle, as Stuart Winus was putting pressure on both of them. Will gain both places without having to make a tap or touch. Coming back to your live pictures, well, right now we look here to Jamie Dory, who's got the company of a Delmont around him, and well, he's used to racing against Adam Delmont, but he's got the younger member of the Delmont family, Lewis, right behind him here. They're fighting over P20, and right now Jamie Dory will be thinking, I can't shrug off the Delmonts wherever I look. But as he comes out of turn 14 in towards 15, he won't mind that. They're good friends off circuit and absolute rivals on the circuit. But coming on down for return at number 15 on this 7th tour of the circuit under race conditions. Well, meanwhile, there's more still to come in the AM class here. And the AM class is getting absolutely frantic, it must be said, as Craig Tillotson under pressure from Lewis Mason, with what is Russell Fowler making his way on through, and Tillotson having to play the balancing act of letting the sister team car go if he can, but at the same time trying to keep close to Berry and keep Mason away. So everyone right now, if you're AM or Pro-Am in this pack, all right now trying to siphon and source positions off each other. As you see, Fowler there on the inside of turn 16. Meanwhile, Berry lets the car run out wide. Jonathan Berry P5 in the AM class, struggling a little bit at the moment. as he comes on down in towards what is turn number 1, Roy is well down, and we do say hello there in what is the YouTube chat to Elwood Sykes, who we did say hello to a little bit earlier on, I do believe. Well, the drivers come on down to the braking zone here. We can see what is a side-by-side between Mason and Tillerson, and Mason gets the move done outside to inside. Tillerson tries to come back at him. Spencer takes the trip onto the runoff area, and well, in the end, Mason gets it done. But whilst this has been happening, there's also been drama further back. We've had an instant for Dan Mould that has seen Mould drop all the way down at P21. And what exactly has happened? Well, here is a replay to explain. Now, it was Lee Horn versus Mould at this time, albeit I think Mould lost some place already, and in the end, be turned across the front of Lee Horn. And, well, I'm not quite sure what exactly triggered off that in terms of where they crossed lines and whatnot. We might be able to get the replay with regards to, from Lee Horn's perspective. So they were side by side into turn number 4. Now, Horn's going to come out here on the outside. Mould's on his inside. They're going to try and go too wide, and in the end, well, Mould comes across, Horn tries to converge, and well, the two converge on a single path, and Horn gets away with it, but you lose the places to both what is then Mikey Doble and Benjamin McCluskey, and I think Horn and Mould have a chat with that one with each other after the race. And well, I can definitely tell you both drivers don't normally end up in altercations, so I think they'll look to discuss what exactly happened there. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, we've got Andrew Pike leading the way. Sets fastest lap of the race, a 58.503, and he's in a car right now that is humming to the tune of victory, it would seem. He's still got 4 laps to go, so let's not get ahead of ourselves and put the commentator's curse on him. But it's been a long time since we've been able to say Andrew Pike and victory, and we'll have to wait and see whether the Sim Racing Collective driver can make it happen after being denied in that absolutely thrilling drive in race 2 at Mosport versus Benjamin McCluskey, where it was a tyre strategy gamble. Pike missed out in the end with the circuit drying too much for him to be able to find a way past Benjamin McCluskey. But today, there's no sign of wet weather or a McCluskey in sight, and Pike might just be able to make it his first win in a long time. In fact, I think it's his second ever Opel win in his NXTCC career. But as Ultrier heads on down here, he's still got Gardner for company. Ultrier would love to take this P2. It'd be one of his best results since becoming pro. In fact, it'd be his best results since becoming a pro driver. And heading up the rise they go. We're right now Gardner close behind, and Matthew Cheverton has the company of Davidson now. And this is the fight for the lead of the Pro-Am class, P4, P5, in terms of where they are overall on track, and rolling off the brakes and uphill through turn number 9 there, as I start to forget my quarter numbers, given the fact it has been a crazy day of racing. Well, these two right now absolutely glued to each other. We look back for the rear of the leader in the 390, and Cheverton going defensive into 11. And getting the car nicely positioned there, and you'll notice that Davison trying to use the stronger brakes and also the stronger rotational potential of that Honda in the lower speed corners in order to get a cutback and set up the run here into turn 14. But the problem is this Elantra, while it lacks in the corners, it makes up for in the acceleration zones and the straights, and it's a very nimble car. And with the sun going down, track temperatures have dropped, and that means the tyre life disadvantage we normally associate with the Elantra will not prove as notable here in this final race of the day, because we have called the track temperatures as they come down towards what will be another lap and go on to lap number 9. As we see Sheraton start to pull away, that's the Elantra's top speed versus the Honda. Well, here they come once again, and while some progress is being made inside the top 10 for 2B Motorsport, just outside of it, William Guthrie still making some progress here as he tries to break back into the top 10. He's got Daniel Downing right in front of him, and Downing right now, well, the Honda driver for Goldwyn Motorsport in the draft of Wesley Horn. He'll be hoping it's enough, but Guthrie there can't find a move under brake, and he's been quite adventurous into turn 1, has Guthrie, in previous races, in terms of how late he breaks into the corner, and sometimes going all in on the brakes, and well, to be fair, not deciding to risk it this time around. And indeed, there's a time when you want to risk it, and there's a time when you want to play it safe. And Guthrie here choosing to play it safe this time. Might imagine on the final 2 laps he may change tact. Further back, Lewis Mason finds himself surrounded here by cars. He's got Jonathan Berry on his inside. That's a Portimão Audi RS3 you see on the inside line to turn 1. Mason's going to try and go around the outside, but Berry here fighting for P5 in the AM class versus Mason. Too wide they enter the chicane. Do they leave it too wide? Well, not quite, but it will be too wide because Craig Tillerson looks to go around the outside of Berry here into turn 4. Berry will stick his nose in as much as he can and hope that his teammate Sammy Ariba gets involved in the other Portimão Audi that's encroaching upon this. And well, well in the end. Let's give each other space. It's a bit of a door clatter there. Tillerson versus Berry, and Berry sent out wide. Tillerson, I think, was just simply minding his own line on the inside, and a nasty knock on the door there as Dylan Hunter now gets involved. And meanwhile, here comes James Spazisgal as they look to go 3 wide. Hunter goes deep. Spazisgal pressures. Hunter turns in and absolutely comes into a faceful of what was none other than Jonathan Berry's car there, and that Veloster may have just taken some major front damage that could have damaged the engine. As Sean Doble now gets onto the inside of 7, puts himself on the outside of turn number 8. The 88 Tech Racing driver sees an opportunity and he's going to go all in it, but Hunter says no you don't and stops the flow as they head up the hill in towards turns 9 and 10. Coming over the rise, and still we've got more fighting here between Tillerson and Spazisgal as they come through turn 10 up towards 11. Spazisgal around the outside to the inside, and the prime driver in the Audi RS3 absolutely nailing his braking point. But wait, there's more as we look further up the order into P22, and this is Kevin Smith, your AM leader, who just needs to get it home to make it 3 AM wins out of 3 at this point, given the gap he has over the rest of the AM field. He finds himself in a bit of an exchange with Ben Gregory and Andy Fox, as Fox runs very wide there in order to rejoin safely, and Smith right now is digging into P22 where he wants to have a bit of a fight and a fuss here, and who can blame him? But as they come on down the straight, meanwhile just up the road, that's Dan Mould up the inside of Jamie Dory for P20 as they head onto the brakes. And then we have Smith here going deep into turn 1. Let's go with Ben Gregory, and then Alan McCain right now be thinking, well, why can't I get the pass on the AM driver here, because I'm busy fighting Ben Gregory and they're fighting for P11 in the prime class. But coming in towards turn number 4, you can see McCain really trying to make this move happen, showing his frustration here in the way. And Smith right now just simply keeping his head down and carrying on and not budging an inch. But from them, we look up to Benjamin McCluskey and Mikey Doble. These two fighting for what is P7 into turn number 8 here. Down here through the right hander they go. Doble at the inside, and meanwhile McCluskey having to back out there. There's only really one line through turns 8 and 9. And if you go too wide, the driver on the inside has the authority into turn 9 typically, unless they made a complete hash round of what is turn number 9. But rolling up the hill, McCluskey comes back here, but Doble using the power of that Audi despite the success bars in it. Remember, he's carrying the maximum success bars of 56.1 kilograms. That Audi will be limping up the hills compared to its normal pace. It wouldn't normally be this slow, but indeed right now he's nowhere near sprinting up those hills and just simply trying to stop any more places being lost, because if he can finish P7, what this will do in the overall championship is it will bring him a bit closer, because Cebula is only 2 places up, well, in fact only 1 place up the road to Doble, and given the fact Doble finished right behind him in what was the first race of the day, and Doble took that absolutely brilliant race win, it will level the playing field on points between himself and Cebula heading to Monza in a week's time. But the white flag waves, and that can mean only one thing, 1 lap to go, and Matthew Sheraton right now P4 bumping and grinding his way down the inside wall towards turn 1, because Davidson is looking around the outside here for the pro-am victory, as here comes Cebula to intervene, and Davidson right now be saying no, go away, I don't want you playing a part of this, and Sheraton closes the door in Cebula's face, and Sheraton absolutely forces Cebula to come between the two of them. This is brilliant work from Sheraton to make sure that Davidson doesn't get an opportunity to go on the attack, and as they roll off and coming out of turn what is number 5, well right now Sheraton absolutely holding position. As we say hello to Tom Buxton there, who updates us on the statistic of Pike brings this home, it will be his 4th ever overall win in the NXTCC, and for a driver who's done so well over the course of his NXTCC career, to only have 4 wins is absolutely incredible in terms of the fact you'd expect him to have more. But we stay glued here to the battle for the prime win for the time being between Sheraton and what is Davidson, with Cebula having an intervening role, and up the inside goes Davidson there. Cebula goes a bit deeper turn 9, but it's not enough in the battle of the Hondas. They head up towards turn 11. Coming up the hill, and will Sheraton right now 9, all he's got to do is keep Cebula there for a few more corners, as everything right now is going to the maximum. Meanwhile, we look to Andrew Pike here, and right now it's a lonely lead with Ben Ultrier in P2, keeping Gavin Goddard behind for the time, 4 tenths between the two of them. But we come back to your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way in towards turn 15, and as he exits it right now, there's only 1 corner to go, and 3 times he has been again an NXTCC overall race winner, and here today in race 3 of the day at Portimão, he will become a 4th time winner after 3 seasons of not being on the top step of the podium. Andrew Pike's done it for the Sim Racing Collective. He takes victory here in the final race of the day. Ben Altria will finish runner-up here for Full Tilt Motorsport ahead of Gavin Garner, who returns to the podium after a season where he wasn't on the podium in season 7. Matthew Sheraton holds on for prime victory for Aztec Racing, yielding his best results of the season so far. Jaroslaw Cebula P5, Tom Davidson runner-up in the prime class once again. Mikey Doble P7 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey P8. Lee Horn and William Guthrie completed top 10. Daniel Downing makes it 3rd place in the AM class, pro-am class I should say, and then winning the AM class 3 for 3 today with P24 overall. Kevin Smith of Verano Academy absolutely dominates here in Portugal with a 1-2 once again. Marcel Fritsch makes it 2nd place in the AM class for Verano Academy, P27 overall, and Josh Brown takes the final AM podium in an absolutely cracking drive for the National Racing Team driver, with Gabriel Yilmaz just finishing a bit behind. Well, we've got more places to come, including one from Craig Tillerson, who finishes P35 ahead of Sean Doby, who takes P7 in the AM class. You can see his flashes lights there. He's proud of his best result of the season so far in the AM class, just ahead of Dylan Hunter, Gabriel Papaconstantinou, and then Andy Chell, Jonathan Berry with a frustrated end to the race of the Portimão Motorsport pair, and we will shortly see Duncan Reyes come across the line for P41, but ahead of Matt Emmons by the best part of what will be about 20 seconds, who will be our last finisher. But here comes Jonathan Collins over the back of Emmons. So they're going to have a bit of a race all the way to the end, and as they roar the way out the final corner, right now Emmons will just be trying to hold on here. It's not worth any points, it's worth a little bit of pride, and Emmons does fend off Jonathan Collins to line for P42. Collins P43 and our last lead lap finisher. But meanwhile, coming from the last of our finishers to our very first, Andrew Pint there for the Sim Racing Collective. He will be absolutely ecstatic, and I can imagine when he gets out the car, there's going to be a lot of congratulations from his teammates of the Sim Racing Collective. They are a very tight unit, and I can already see in the YouTube chat a lot of celebrations there for the likes of Handsome Stewart and Tom Buxton in the YouTube chat for the number 57 driver, picking up his 4th NXTCC win, and what a win it is, as Ben Altria rapidly makes his way to the pit lane. A P2 for him, his best results since moving to the pro class, and he will be smiling from ear to ear. That, and Gavin Gardner, who would have thought, returns to the podium after a long hiatus, and a P3 there ahead of Matthew Sheraton, prime victor, and the Aztec Racing driver. Is this the round where suddenly the floodgates open and he finally builds up that championship momentum? Because Tom Davidson behind, runner up again in the prime class today. Huge points on the board, to be fair, in his debut round for this season, but you would have to imagine what else could he have done. As meanwhile, we've got Kevin Smith making his way on down. He's in the company there of Craig Tillerson, and for Kevin Smith, well, I'd definitely say with 3 out of 3 here today in the AM class, he's definitely now set himself up. If he can match that at Monza, he will definitely have announced himself as being a title contender, because that was the target, and where it started a little bit later in the season than most, but perhaps he will bring a bit of order to an AM class that has been topsy-turvy from round 1 to 2, and coming into today, it really has been the Kevin Smith show as far as AM is concerned. As the drivers make the way down the pit lane, it was a 1-2, of course, for Verano Academy, and Marcel Fritsch P2 in the class, and also Josh Brown cannot be forgotten about for his great performance. And Portimão Motorsport having a challenging day today, and Sammy Reba just missing out on the prime points. They're P16 in class, P34 overall, was everyone makes the way into the pit lane. Let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So an absolutely fascinating race 3 of 3 today here in round 3 of the NXTCC Season 8, powered by Doble Motorcycles at the Portimão Circuit. Saw Andrew Pint take victory for the Sim Racing Collective by 7 seconds over Full Tilt Motorsports' Ben Altria. Next Gen Pink's Gavin Garner rounded off the overall podium with a return to P3 in the number 11, head of Aztec Race's Matthew Sheraton, who played his cards right and netted his first prime win of the season at P4. Next Gen Pink's Jaroslaw Cebula butted his way in between the 2 prime podium finishers with a P5 there and some good points on the board. Tom Davidson in the end having to settle for 6th and run up once again in the prime class, but the Sim Racing Collective driver won't be too unhappy with that, with 2 out of 3 races being prime podiums. Mikey Doble, P7 there for Doble Sim Racing. Now, he couldn't quite stay with Cebula in this race, but to be fair, with that maximum success bust, a P7 is no small result, and that's going to go a long way in bringing him alongside Cebula in the championship standings, and ahead of Next Gen Pink's Benjamin McCluskey, with Lee Horn for Next Gen Orange with Risky Runners, just fending off William Guthrie to the line, who completed top 10 for Full Tilt Motorsport. P11 best of the rest was Daniel Downing after 2 victories in races 1 and 2, in the end completed a trio of podiums, and P3 was that for the Prime Class driver for Goldwyn Motorsport, ahead of Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports, and then Adam Delmont for SO NXTGEN Gold, finishing P13, unlucky for some, and today it really has been a mixed bag of fortunes for the SO NXTGEN Gold driver. Reswap finished P14 for JWM Motorsport, ahead of Stuart Winnes for Track Scotland, and that was your overall top 15. Behind him, Sam Swift P16, ahead of the SRL with NXTGEN Gold pair of Lewis Delmont and Dan Mould, with Dan Mould being unfortunate to be involved in that incident, which saw him shuttled all the way down to outside the top 20, but he did well to recover to P18 and fended off Sam Van Olst and Jamie Dorey, with the NXTGEN Pink drive completing the top 20. It was P21 for Jake Pitt, ahead of Ben Gregory, with Alan McCain P23, not where he wanted to be in this one, but ahead of the AM winner, Kevin Smith P24 for Verano Academy. Andy Foxfish P25 ahead of Isaac Doble, with Marcel Fritz your runner-up in the AM class and making it a 1-2 for Verano Academy P27. And then we saw your top 30 completed by Russell Fowler, Josh Brown, your third place finisher in the AM class for National Racing Team. Congratulations to him. And Kieran Smart finishing at 30th place. Behind the Track Scotland driver, the Aztec Racing trio of Gabriel Yilmaz, Lewis Mason and James Smazesgal, enjoying a fight right at the end of the race there for the final of the AM top 5 places, with Sammy Arriba P34 ahead of Craig Tillerson. Now was Sean Doby taking his best result of the season, P36 at ATIP Tech Race ahead of Dylan Hunter, with Gabriel Papaconstantou and then Andy Chell and Jonathan Berry completing your top 40. It was P41 for Duncan Rise ahead of Matt Emmons, with Jonathan College, your last lead lap finisher, P43, ahead of our last classified finisher as he completed over half the race distance for JW Motorsport, Michael Lees, and we had the unfortunate retirements in the early stage of the race for Eduardo Gonzaga, Wayne Douglas, and Mark Sykes. So 47 starters, 47 finishers in the end, ladies and gentlemen. On of those, 43 on the lead lap. Well, what an absolutely brilliant trio of races today. Indeed, you could not have made up how they played out. And well, with those in mind, the racing may have concluded here today at Portimão. But I can tell you one thing, the show's not over in Portugal, because coming up shortly will be our post-round interviews with our selected drivers. So don't go anywhere, because we will be back in approximately 12 to 14 minutes time for those post-round interviews. And well, you won't want to miss them. We will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we've got one driver from each of our classes. And we're going to start off with the Pro class, and we're none other than three-time NXTCC champion and 2024 Jack Sears Trophy champion in the BTCC, Mikey Doble. And then we'll be coming on to Kevin Smith, the AM driver from Verona Academy, who absolutely dominated today with 3 out of 3 victories, before then going back to the Pro-Am class for Lewis Delmont for SO NXTGEN Gold, who had 3 top 10 finishes in the Pro-Am class today, a consistent set of results, and we'll get to hear his view on how his season has gone so far in his debut in the NXTCC. But without further ado, joining me in the interview room now is none other than Mikey Doble. Good evening to you, Mikey, and well, what a day today. 3 top 5s in the Pro class, a win in race number 2. I mean, this is the Mikey Doble of old of NXTCC coming back, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to wait till I got a win before I come to join you for an interview. But yeah, it's nice to feel a little bit like season's passed again and get a win and a couple of top 10s tonight. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the new car. And yeah, couldn't really have asked much more out of the performance and results tonight.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, coming also into a time whereby the iRacing simulator recently been updated as well. We've got the wet weather now in full force. We've had an update to debris on the circuit as well as of today. I mean, there's so much happening as well. And on top of that, you've got a whole new set of drivers on the grid. I mean, it couldn't be close to the competition. And today, it looked as though you just seemed to be able to find the fine balance between what was driving on the edge to chase victory and just making sure to net those results, something that's very hard to do when everything's changing around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as the championship starts to develop, you quickly learn who your championship rivals are going to be across the season. So whilst you're not so disappointed to be qualifying 7th, say, because you've got one eye on where your rivals are. So, you know, when you're carrying ballast into every week like we do now, you know that pole position is going to be out the question. But yeah, to get top 10 with with sort of top 3 ballast on the car is generally a good qualifying result. Last week I succumbed to a poor qualifying and it cost me with my overall results across the evening. But yeah, I just thought to try and pick a couple off in race 1, which obviously put me in a good position for race 2 when I could shed the weight.
Indeed, and with regards to that qualifying session as well, just coming back to that for a brief moment, finally a day where we haven't had rain plague things, and I have to ask, how has it felt given the fact that all the way through today it's been sunshine and barely any clouds in the sky as well? It must feel as though we're back to what has been the early seasons of the NXTCC where the weather's been a bit more predictable.
Yeah, I mean, pardon the pun, it's been a breath of fresh air, to be honest. I do like the conditions and the wet weather that iRacing have brought along, but when it's changeable like it was last week, it is a little bit of a gamble, and it kind of takes away a little bit of the precision driving and just outright pace. It's more about being on the right tyre at the right time. So to have a dry quali and 3 dry races tonight felt pretty good, and the racing I thought was absolutely epic in the top 10 to 15 cars. So yeah, it was a great evening's racing. You know, with this Audi, I'm learning it every week. It's the first season in 8 seasons. It's the first time I've ever driven the Audi, and I just wanted to have something a little bit different going into the season, because what I've had hasn't worked the last couple of seasons. Yeah, just really learning the nuances, learning the brake balance, and learning where it's strong and kind of using it to good effect.
Well, that's a good point. And coming on to the change to the Audi for this season, I mean, it's a car that's normally being considered perhaps the outlier in the NXTCC, whereby some great results can come, but it normally requires certain conditions or certain circuits in order to make the Audi work. But you seem to be demonstrating that the car can be used each and every place we go to. But what's the one thing, if you had to comment on one thing, that has made the Audi different from, say, the Honda you've previously driven, or the Elantra or the Veloster?
So, I mean, I think the Audi has always been renowned for having superior straight line pace. It's a little bit lazy in the corners. It doesn't quite have the mid-corner rotation, shall we say, of something like the Honda or the Veloster. But once you get the wheels straight and get your foot down, it does carry an extra couple of kilometers an hour down the straight. And for me, I thought, well, I can make up for its faults in the corners through hopefully some good driving. So if I can match everyone else in the corners and get out onto the straight, and go a little bit faster down the straight. It's just a lot easier to race with, and whilst I don't believe it's the outright fastest car in qualifying when the tyres are new, because I don't have to push the tyres and the car as hard during the race because I've got better acceleration, better straight line speed, it means that I can preserve the tyres a little bit more. And I think that's why we're seeing me generally come forward from my starting position in all of the races, because you know, it races well. It's, you know, to overtake in a race, you need a car that gets good straight line speed, and also it carries the weight extremely well. You know, we've seen in seasons gone past, you chuck P2, P1 weight on the Hyundai, and you're back in 15th or 20th. But with this Audi, I definitely feel like the disparity between no weight and full weight is probably only about 0.3 of a second a lap. So for that being said, it means that I can always be in touching distance with the top 10, and then when I do lose the weight or lose some of the weight, it puts me in a position where I can easily come forward and make some moves.
I really appreciate the insights down the Audi, and a lot of that being demonstrated, particularly that ability to come forward. And just talking a little bit about race one, we saw you finish P5 overall, just ahead of championship leader going into today, Jaroslaw Cebula. And I get the feeling that was your main target in all three races, was just make sure you finish ahead of him and then pick up every other result you can. Because between the two of you in all three races, particularly races 1 and 3, we saw some absolutely brilliant scrapping action.
Yeah, race one, as I say, going back to focusing on your championship rivals, I managed to pick up a couple of places early on, and then Jaroslaw got up behind me. I thought he had pretty good pace, to be honest, in race one, considering he was carrying full weight. But I think that in those hotter conditions, it kind of favoured the Honda a little bit more through the twisty corners, like sectors 2, 3, and 4 on the lap. But I was able to place my car in the right spots on the track and kind of use the straight line performance of the Audi on the straights to keep him behind. But yeah, I was more than happy with P5 in race one.
Well, absolutely fair, and taking that P5 and going with it into race number 2. I mean, we saw you charge your way through the pack and eventually pick off Dan Mould in the closing laps, and after that you never looked back to take victory in race 2. It must have felt absolutely brilliant just to think to yourself, you know what, everything's hooked up here and I can just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I only you know, I was carrying P3 weight coming into race 1, and I was carrying P5 weight for race 2, so it wasn't a huge difference in weight, but it was the cars around me that had gained some ballast as well, hence why the performance delta shifted. But the main thought in the back of my mind during all of race 2 was just to be patient. You know, I knew I had the pace to get to the front, and I didn't want to make any rash moves trying to rush my way up there and risk taking myself out. So I kind of had 2 areas on the track where I thought I could make a clean pass, and yeah, I mean, I kind of waited until I got to those spots where I knew my car was strong, and executed the move. Obviously had some fantastic battles with some of the guys coming through there, none other than Dan Mould there, where we went side by side for probably 6 corners before I managed to fully execute the move. But no, really enjoyed that race, and it's been a while since I've stood on the top step in one of these races, so nice to get some big points as well.
Oh, indeed. And well, speaking of big points scored, perhaps one of the understated moments, your charge to P7 in race number 3. I mean, keeping in mind carrying maximum success bars, it's normally very hard, and you've even talked about it in previous seasons, to even get into the top 10 in the final race of the day with that reverse grid. But to finish P7 and again finish very close to your title rival, along with some other rivals trying to come up with you, I mean, it must make you feel as though this is perhaps the turning point of the season.
Yeah, like I say, you know, I've been waiting to kind of burst onto the scene with this car, and you know, I've been happy with my performances up until now, but kind of gone a little bit under the radar, but consistently in the top 5. And that last race again kind of just demonstrates the reason that I've gone to the Audi for this season, because I feel like in those race 3 scenarios you can undo all of your good work if you've had a good first couple of races by getting mired up in the pack, not being able to make any progress, and then getting involved in an accident with some of the midfield runners. So to be competitive in that last race and kind of have pace to be catching the top 5 as we were is really good. And I think also as you get into those dusk races there, as the temperature comes down, it also helps the Audi as well. And I think the brake balance does suit the car a little bit more for those cooler conditions. So Yeah, I was happy with P7. Obviously, didn't have the pace on Jaroslaw in that one because I think he was only carrying P9 weight, P8 weight, something like that. But yeah, very much maximised what I had there in that last race to conclude what was a successful evening's racing, I must say.
Oh, indeed, a successful evening of racing, and based on that success, it does mean going into our 4th round of the season in a week's time, you'll be leading the championship provisionally overall. How are you feeling keeping that in mind for Monza?
Yeah, well, I wasn't aware of that, but I think that coming into Monza now should be a track that really suits this car. I mean, we've had well, 2 of the first 3 tracks have been ultra twisty, and I'd say suited to the Honda and the Veloster, which are both very good on the brakes. They turn on a sixpence, but obviously last week would have been a good Audi track, but was hampered by the weather. But coming into Monza, especially without the first chicane, it's got to be a dream for that car. It's long straights, all about the power. So hopefully we can get a reasonable qualifying. If we can be sort of in the top 10 or around where I was today, that would be great, and kind of repeat exactly what we've done today again.
We definitely look forward to seeing whether you can repeat your achievements of today or perhaps even surpass them next week at Monza. But just before we do let you go, Mikey, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I've kind of forgot my script, but as always, yourself, Paul. I'll be watching the stream back later and undoubtedly enjoying it. So thanks very much for your time you give up. To all the guys and girls that have tuned in and watched the racing this evening, hopefully it's been a good show. Obviously to Jamie and everyone at NXTGEN for putting on this league and continuing to grow it in the right direction, and obviously we can see the standard of everyone getting better and better season on season, so that's all great. And so yeah, all the sponsors and people that help out, Sykes, liveries and Falconer PCs, everyone that gets involved and kind of has everyone's back in this league. So yeah, looking forward to next week already.
Oh, indeed, and we're looking forward to seeing what you can do in a week's time, Mikey. But with that, thank you very much for joining me in the interview room. It's always a pleasure, and it's great to see you back up there on the top step tonight. Congratulations on your results, and we look forward to plenty more in a week's time.
Cheers, take care.
So hearing there from Mikey Doble, 3-time NXTCC champion, gunning for a 4th title, and to put some space between himself and the likes of Jamie Doyle and Wojciech Swiatek, both 2-time champions, and really reflect on today that he's now been able to come out from underneath what has been a relatively silent set of performances so far in getting acclimatised to the Audi RS3 and really being able to announce himself on the stage. And what a Portimão circuit where it's been dry, but a circuit where he's also been able to unleash that straight line potential of the Audi, but also not be as hesitant in the corners. Also talked about there being a bit of a fresh air compared to the mixed and changeable conditions we've had from the first 2 rounds, but he's been able to leap on the opportunity and hasn't looked back. And as a result, you could say now that for our number 88 driver, if he can carry on this momentum at Monza, he could definitely be carrying a championship lead into the mid-season break over the Christmas period, and it could be a lead that will prove difficult for many to climb up and assail against as we head into the final 6 rounds. But then again, I'm theory crafting and looking into a future. My crystal ball doesn't extend even more than a single race, let alone a single week. So I get the feeling that for Mikey and many, they'll be taking it race by race and round by round. But the one thing the Doble Sim Racing driver has indicated is that by getting comfortable with this Audi now, he's starting to become an increasing force to be reckoned with, and the results tonight have shown it. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our second interviewee. And you've heard just moments ago there from Mikey Doble, but now we're coming to our dominant AM driver of the day. And it is going to be none other than Kevin Smith, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And well, we're going to get to hear the story of the man who really was unstoppable today, as now he does join me. So good evening to you, Kevin. What a trio of races today. I mean, 3 out of 3. And I remember when we caught up in the build-up to this season, you said your target this season was to absolutely go all in on the AM Championship. Rounds 1 and 2 didn't really show that, but today is the day that Kevin Smith arrived on the scene, surely.
Yeah, good evening to you as well, Paul. Yeah, it was round 1 and 2, I'd rather just forget about them. But no, like you say, in the build-up of the season, I mean, I was feeling comfortable in the Audi anyways. which is why I swapped from the last season's Honda Civic that we were on. And it just, the first couple of races I kind of struggled with it, and then this week it's clicked. I've finally managed to get like my launches off a start sorted, me braking. And I think I showed tonight with the results that came with it.
Oh, most definitely it showed, albeit I have to say, and this is not a critique necessarily, but I know that you're a person who does love to chase perfection when it comes to the points, not quite taking pole position in what was qualifying, but instead second place, and I believe that pole position just being taken, unless I'm very much mistaken, by what was your teammate Marcel Fritsch, but only between the two of you a 10th, if that. How was qualifying?
Again, I really struggled with it. I just couldn't put a lap together. And it was kind of like, come in, get some tyres, reset. I'd done a lap, it was a little bit quick and it wasn't much. And I was sort of looking, like, seeing who was around us. Seeing there was a couple of fast drivers behind us. I think it was actually Ben Altria. And I just let him pass, tucked in behind him, and managed to put in a better quali lap. Got into P2, and then it was a head down for the rest of the night, pretty much.
Indeed. Speaking of getting your head down, let's now talk a little bit more about the races, because that's where the big points are scored. Race number 1, you very quickly moved your way into lead, and after taking the lead, you never looked back with a P22 finish. It looked as though in race 1, it was all about just get clear of the trouble and then never look back.
Yeah, it was pretty much. I mean, obviously with the nature of this track, I had a feeling everyone would be queuing at the apex for turn 1. So I was kind of like, right, let's just try going around the outside and see what happens. And obviously it paid off, and then eventually Jonathan got past us. To be honest, I'm gutted that Jonathan had technical issues, because realistically race 1 was his race, but we won the race, not really in the way I wanted to win it, but it's a win at the end of the day.
Well, it's unfortunate Jonathan Collins had those technical issues, like you say, and that fills in a gap that we had in our understanding of what exactly happened in race 1 here in the commentary booth. But still, you take the result forward and go into race number 2, and some more progress being made. A P20 finish this time and another win, and it looked so throughout race number 2 you weren't under any threat of being challenged.
Yeah, I mean, I was keeping an eye on the relative, not too much, to be honest. I was just sort of looking ahead rather than behind. You know, I had a bit of battle with some of the pro-ams and pros, and to be honest, I've enjoyed all 3 races tonight. It's been really good racing.
Oh, most definitely. And also, we'll talk a little bit more about race 3 shortly, but also in race 2, we did see your teammate Marcel Fritsch come through to make it a 1-2 for Verano Academy, I should say. I mean, it's the first time you guys have achieved that this season, and what an achievement to make it a 1-2.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, a 1-2 for any team is always a good boost for everyone, and obviously the team as a whole, on both sides, the academy and the esports team.
Oh, indeed. And then coming on to race number 3, where we saw that 1-2 once again, but focusing a bit more on your race. Unfortunate to miss out on being in the reverse grid draw, but the flip side of the coin being that at the start of the race, you managed to steer clear a lot of the danger, and it looked as though, correct me if I'm wrong, as the race went on, a lot of pro-ams and pros around you wanted to fight, and you just wanted to let them go a little bit, albeit not without having a little bit of a fight with them.
Yeah, it was one of them. I was sort of looking, seeing how far behind the next dams are and stuff, and being like, oh, I can have a bit of a battle with these, but not to the point where I'm starting to drop time. And I think it was Fox. I can't actually remember his name. That was behind us most of the race. We had a brilliant battle, and it was great fun to just be up there having some quality battles with the faster drivers.
Oh, you're pretty much spot on there. As we look at the replay footage here, and we can see it was Andy Fox who was pretty much with you all the way through the race. And like you say, brilliant battling and great experience for both of you there as you both look to try and make progress on each other. But coming back to the AM results in particular, it's 3 wins out of 3 today, and provisionally that does mean now in the AM Championship standings that, subject to any stewards' inquiries, it does mean you've now shuffled your way all the way to the top of the AM standings, only by 9 points over Josh Brown. But what a change of fortunes. I mean, how do you feel about that after 3 rounds to have leapt your way into the lead?
To be honest, I never thought I could go from P7 to P1 in 1 round. Like, I never... obviously with work and stuff, I didn't even have time to practice this week. I literally jumped in half an hour before qualifying, and then I think I'd done about 10, 12 laps, and then someone tells us I've got wet tyres on. That's why I was so slow, and it was like, oh, yeah, I've got last week's setup on. So we had to quickly put the dries on in the pits, and then get back out and turned a couple of laps. And to be honest, I'm very happy with tonight's results.
Well, you definitely should be, and with the Audi being so strong in the straights, I mean, surely you've got to fancy your chances at Monza next week.
Oh, 100% at Monza. I mean, like, going back to the pre-season little catch-up we had, like I said, I'm here to race, I'm here to win. I'm not here to make up the numbers in the mid-pack. And I'm going to look to carry that number 1 plate all the way at the end now.
Oh, brilliant. I'm loving the determination, Kevin, and I look forward to seeing how that plays out at Monza in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout-out or a special mention to live on the broadcast?
Obviously, a big shout-out to yourself and everyone at NXTGEN. Lab puts on the championship, does a shoot and stuff every week. And obviously everyone at Verano who supports us in and out of the team with everything that we've got going on. So it's a big thank you to everyone all around.
Oh, that's fantastic, Kevin. And it's great to hear about how yourself and the team have been so close together and enjoying all the results as they come. But once again, thank you for joining me in the interview room, and well done on what has been an absolutely brilliant display tonight. We look forward to seeing whether you can continue that winning streak in a week's time at Monza. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
You as well, Paul. Thank you very much.
So hearing there from a very happy Kevin Smith, no doubt about it there. I think right now, I mean, he's normally a man who's a little bit quiet when it comes to interviews, but I can tell you one thing, he's absolutely bounced up and down there with regards to that interview, and well, it's always a pleasure to speak to Kevin, no doubt about it. In fact, normally quite succinct and to the point, but today I think even enjoying the fact that the Audi RS3 of Rhino Academy in his capable hands absolutely roared here at Portimão. Didn't quite get the practice in he wanted, and even had the wrong setup on the car in terms of wet tyres as he went out there in the initial qualifying phase. But once he got the setup right, then everything started to click together. Missed out on a perfect day by not quite gaining an pole position, missing out versus his teammate who was Marcel Fridge, and toying out in race number 1. A bit of luck intervening in order to enable him to take the victory with Jonathan Collins' untimely retirement from the race due to a technical issue. But sometimes that's the way it goes in motorsport, and retirements can happen at a given moment's notice, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time to pick up on those opportunities. And from there, well, the doors opened and the victories flowed in for races 2 and 3. Well, the major pressure was on Kevin not to fight with certain drivers unless he felt as though he was comfortable to keep some pros or promos behind him and gain that battling experience. And we saw that as we continue to do so here versus Andy Fox in race number 3. He's feeling confident going to Monza in a week's time, and now has set himself the task of leading the championship all the way to the finish if he can. Will he be able to do so after Monza? We'll have to wait and see next week. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our final interview of the evening. And, well, we're going to be hearing from none other than what is Lewis Delmont as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. And we're going to be hearing from the younger member of the Delmont family and get to hear his feelings on today, but also on how his championship campaign has gone so far as he now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Lewis. And, well, it's great to have you here. And what a day for yourself today. 3 top 10 finishes in the Pro-Am class. Plenty of battling out there. I mean, Portimão has got plenty to give, and it looks as though you enjoyed yourself.
I did, yes. A lot better of a week than week 1 and week 2. Yeah, I really enjoyed it this week. Clean racing, and I had the pace. Yeah, I were doing okay today.
Now, compared to your previous fortunes, I mean, at rounds 1 and 2, we always like to use the term baptism by fire for newcomers to the NXTCC because there's plenty of elbows out, and add to that as well the fact that we've had extremely changeable and variable conditions in our opening 2 rounds. I mean, it must feel as though today you've almost gone back in a time capsule 7 seasons to a much more, perhaps placid NXTCC where there's elbows out, but there's not everything else to contend with.
Definitely. I did struggle week 1 and 2 with the changing conditions. I've never done a race in wet or changing conditions, so that was definitely a struggle. But today we had dry, and yeah, I definitely showed what's to come in Pro-Am, hopefully.
Well, speaking of what's to come, we saw an indication that perhaps in qualifying with that P22, P9 in the Pro-Am class, qualifying in the end saw you qualify right in the middle of the field. What was the session like for yourself? Because I get the feeling you perhaps wanted a bit more out of it, but there just wasn't enough on the table.
Definitely. I dropped off some toe that I had from Dan Mould in quali, and he just left me a bit, and it just I just struggled for any type of lap time. But overall, in the actual race, starting in the mid, it were quite chaotic in the first few laps, but then it started to settle down. And yeah, I had some close racing with a lot of people. I had a slight moment in race 3 with Reese Watt. I ended up going off, come around his front end whilst he was rejoining. But I managed to bring it back up to, I think it were P17 maybe, somewhere around there. But yeah, the mid pack was good, to be fair. Good racing between everyone, really clean.
Oh, indeed it was. And you're right there about P17 in race number 3 and that P8 finish in the Pro-Am class as Reese Watt was with you all the way through that race. And speaking about not just race number 1, but also race number 2. We saw in the early races as well, quite a lot of fighting. In both of them, you finished P19. One of them P8 in Pro-Am, the other P7. I mean, it's good points on the board, and it seems as though now you're really starting to establish yourself as a regular finisher in the Pro-Am top 10. Has that been your target for this round, or was it a case of let's just see how the results go?
Definitely. I'd beaten myself up in week 1 and 2 with the bad results, obviously, and this week I just wanted something to say, yes, I can be top 10, I can be somewhere in the Pro-Am pack, which I've managed, and I'm happy with it. I was never going for a P1, P2. I just wanted some steady results this week, and hopefully throughout the season I'll pick up more pace and maybe get up towards the top 5. That's the plan.
I think it's a very solid plan to go with, and well, you're picking the right time to really build up that pace now. Portimão has been a circuit that's favoured you, but I have to ask, how are you feeling for Monza next week? Because Monza's been more of a straight line speed circuit, and we typically know the Honda as not being the straight line speed car, but more the corner car.
I've yet to drive Monza, but I've heard the struggles of being in a Honda around Monza, so I'm just gonna try stick with everyone else, really. Stay in draft, and yeah, hopefully keep it clean. No crashes next week, hopefully.
Well, we look forward to seeing how he gets on in a week's time. And I do have to ask, of course, with regards to the fact it's both yourself and your dad on the grid, both competing for SL and NXTGEN Gold. I mean, it must feel special to share the grid with Dad. And also, we have seen the two of you running together every so often. There must also be a little bit of a father-son rivalry in a way.
Definitely. I always want to be faster than him. I'd be silly to not think that, but I've still got a long way to go until I get to that level. But hopefully, with his tips and tricks, I'll get up there sooner than later.
Oh, we do look forward to seeing you progress your way up the order and one day perhaps even take your first top 5 in the Pro-Am class, if not your first podium. I'm sure it will come at some point. But just before we do let you go, Lewis, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I'd give a shout out to SRL and NXTGEN and all the associates.
Fantastic. With that, Lewis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me in the interview room. Congratulations once again on a solid set of results today and really starting to dig your teeth into the racing. And we look forward to plenty more, even if it's going to feel as though it's a bit of a midfield battle at Monza next week. We look forward to seeing how you can conquer the challenge that the Honda will face. Until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
So hearing there from our final interview of the day, Lewis Delmont, and well, the SL and NXTGEN Gold driver definitely enjoying a solid set of performances. Talking there as well about the fact that rounds 1 and 2 haven't really been at the rounds he wanted, and in a way echoing in a similar fashion to what Kevin Smith was saying in the previous interview from our AM driver, whereby not really being given the opportunity to show what he can do, and talking out there about really kicking himself with the fact he's not had those results he wanted, not really able to have a top 10 or a run of top 10s to show for it and wanting to hit a top 10, but today he did exactly that. In qualifying, he felt as though there was more on the table, and losing the toe of some of the drivers around him in qualifying didn't help, but then flipped things around in the races. Well, a consistent set of top 20 finishes, not quite able to pick up his first overall championship points, missing out on the top 15. But the fact it was 2 P19s and a 17th place, and always finished inside the prime top 10, 2 P8s and a P7. That consistency going a long way, and something he'll be very happy with, as he mentioned, going into Monza in a week's time. But of course, the change will now be, we're going to a circuit where the Honda is going to be up against the wall. It hasn't got the straight line speed typically, and therefore he's going to have to be smart with the drafts, and it will all be part of the learning experience for Lewis Delmont that he's going through in his debut season, the NXTCC. I'm sure Father Adam will be there to support him as needed and give him tips from a pro-class perspective, but we'll have to wait and see what exactly Lewis Delmont can do when he's put under pressure at the magnificent Monza. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And you heard from, firstly, in the Pro class, Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing in the 88. We then heard from Verano Academy's 94 driver of Kevin Smith in the AM class. And then we've just heard from the number 23 driver of Lewis Delmont for SO and Next Gen Gold in the Prime class. Thank you to all three of them for joining me for post-round interviews this evening. And also congratulations to all of them on their fantastic performances. We look forward to more in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to turn our attention to the updated provisional championship standings after 3 rounds of racing. Now, keeping in mind that for the drivers' championship standings, they include the drop score as well. With there being 3 rounds, the drop score will now be fully in effect. And as we can see, starting with the overall drivers' top 15, it is Mikey Doble who now leads by 14 points over Jaroslaw Cebula. The gap there being marginal, and again, it could sway and throw either way. But also keep in mind, closing up on the ranks, Adam Delmont in P3 on 244 points. All 3 drivers having their best performances today, minus Cebula, it should be said, and therefore you would imagine that right now this title fight is only going to escalate going into Monza. But of course, Cebula in the Honda and Delmont in the Honda will be up against the Audi of Doble. And then we could see Doble's lead extend at Monza unless the Honda drivers can work some magic. Outside the top 3, it's Benjamin McCluskey, who right now holds on to P4 by 9 points over Andrew Pike. And Pike's performances over the races today, well, races 1 and 2 were to go astray, but race number 3 came his way, and he'll be absolutely chuffed with that, as that moves him into P5. Daniel Downing, your leading Pro-Am driver, sits P6 ahead of Ben Altria by a single point, with Dan Mould there just behind Altria based on result count back, and then Nick Clevins and Lee Horn complete your top 10. Best of SP11 is Jamie Dory, yet to really get his championship campaign under full momentum, but we did see some great glimpses of results today from Dory. Have been enjoying the fights inside the top 10. He's ahead of teammate Gavin Gardner, and it's Toby Prosser, Stuart Winess, and Kieran Smart who complete your top 15. Outside the top 15, well, we'll give you an update on that in a week's time, because we must now come to the top 15 of the Pro-Am standings provisionally. And here we can see for our Pro-Am drivers, Daniel Downing still leads by a slightly grown margin of what is their 13 points over Nick Clibbins. Stuart Winess sits in P3. The Track Scotland driver continued to push his way further forward, having finished after round number 2, being inside the top 5, but now he moves into the top 3 ahead of Ben Gregory. And then we have Toby Prosser, who wraps up the top 5, absent on the grid today, and this being a 0-score round. Reece Watt moves into P6 on 225 points, only ahead of Matthew Sheraton based on result countback. But to keep in mind as well with Matthew Sheraton, the fact that he was able to dig deep here and particularly take what was that key victory in our final race of the day, and well, that has been a huge points injection. Kieran Smart is P8 ahead of Sam Van Olst, and Sam Bradley not able to make this round. Well, he falls to P10, but expect plenty more from him in a week's time. He's ahead of Alan McCain by the best part of 14 points, with Jake Pitt, Lewis Delmont, Sam Smith and Russell Fowler rounding up your prime top 15. In the AM class, the story is Kevin Smith has taken over, and he leads now by only 9 points over Josh Brown, but Smith's triplet of victories could that be what starts to turn the tide in the AM Championship. Brown will know that it's a long season, as will Smith, and I expect there'll be the incentive of Brown to try and get back ahead. And keep your eyes as well on the fact we've got Gabriel Yilmaz only a further 13 points behind in P3. There's a growing gap to Jonathan Collins in P4, ruining what could have been if it were not for that technical issue in the first race of the day. But he's ahead of Marcel Fritsch, who sits P5, and then Jonathan Berry just missed out in the top 5 by what is 11 points there, but he's 4 ahead of Lewis Mason. The top 10 is completed by Gabriel Papagon-Sanantino ahead of Andy Chelt and Sean Doby, with both Chelt and Doby yet to really hit their stride, but Doby enjoying his best set of points finishes today at Portimão, it must be said, and I'm sure there's more to come. We had the unfortunate retirement from the season of Mark Kent, he falls outside the top 10, then it's Craig Tillotson and Costa Chatscontinental who complete the standings. We come to the Teams Championship, last but not least, and here we can see NXTGEN Pink lead the way still, and that gap is now up to 202 points. They've eked it out a little bit further, and SO and NXTGEN Gold have moved into P2, with Doble Sim Racing, bar the results of Mikey Doble, seemingly struggling as a whole, with the absence of Joe Doble, and Isaac Doble find himself struggling towards the back of the field after a major incident in race 1 really ended up curveballing what has been a difficult day at Portimão for the Doble Sim Racing driver. However, there's only 10 points between the two teams, and it's a further sizable one. Is there 60? Well, goodness me, no, 75 points to Goldwing Motorsport in P4, and look at that, Goldwing Motorsport in P4 now find themselves in an encroaching fight with Full Tilt Motorsport. The gap between the two teams only, what is there, the best part of 19 points. The Sim Racing Collective sit in P6 as they move forward after the great results of both Andrew Pite and Tom Davidson today, and they've got iRacing Esports hot on their heels. NXTGEN Orange Risky Runners fall to P8, but only a further 4 points behind, and there's a growing gap to Aztec Racing in P9, who find themselves starting to square off versus Track Scotland in the fight to be P9 and complete that top 10. Well, those are the provisional standings, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll give you a further update on the finalised standings after round 3 in a week's time. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the NXTGEN racing community or everything in between, well, to do that and plenty more, we do recommend firstly you head to our official website, and that website being at nextgenracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen now for you, where's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and as we continue to host sim racing leagues into our 17th year, well, I can tell you one thing in NXTGEN Racing, it's never been a better time to join the NXTGEN racing community. And on our website there is a link to our official Discord if you want to go to the beating heart of the social space of the Discord. But also on top of that as well, do keep in mind we have all of the details of our ongoing and upcoming leagues, our schedules and everything between on the website, and therefore it is an absolute goldmine of information. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, and then you can, of course, check out the NXTGEN Racing Facebook group. And that's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, where you can find out more about the guys and girls who make up the NXTGEN Racing admin and staff team in terms of what they do, not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real-life racing circuit, with a good number of our staff members being real-life track marshals, if not racing drivers. We'd also like to take a moment to to thank our sponsors, who we could not do this without, including PowerMax, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Only Racing, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and of course, our title sponsor for this season at Doble Motorcycles. And if you're looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, well, why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the leading Honda motorcycle dealer in the UK. Indeed, you could have the opportunity to source your two-wheel or ATV machine of your dreams and have the power of dreams at your fingertips through Doble Motorcycles, the family-run business, and you can find out plenty more about them today by visiting their website, which is doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to round number 4 of the championship, and in a week's time on Tuesday the 17th of December, we head to the Italian Temple of Speed that is Monza to wrap up the first half of the season before the Christmas break. It looks like in the overall championship, Mikey Doble has finally hit his stride, and Monza might be where he extends his advantage. In the Pro-Am Championship, it's all to play for, given the results and the run-of form of our different drivers as they continue to vie for the top, but Daniel Downing does have a small advantage, and Nick Clemens is trying to keep him close, with Stuart Winus rising up. And in the AM class, it's all about Kevin Smith and whether he can build upon that momentum from today and keep Josh Brown behind him. Well, for all that and more, tune in a week's time, because we have been the NXTCC and NXTGEN Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.